Hello, how are we doing, people? I hope you're doing well out there. Sorry, I still haven't got my socks on yet. Busy day today. Busy day. Don't talk. Busy day. But I'm here. How are you, beautiful people? I hope you're all well, because that's the main thing here. Um, so yeah, before I forget, Sarpi, lazy. Oh, here she is. Here she is. Here she is. Erin in the house. We miss Erin Hack when she's not here. So it's lovely to see Erin. And the reason I'm late is because of Erin, because I forgot, lost all track of time chatting to her. So blame Erin for me being late coming on. With my lips a little bit hard. Jesus. Did you get your food? Do you know what? So I ordered Morrison shop, right? And it's supposed to come between 12 midday and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Knock on the door, 10:15. Well, actually, it was around half 10, say. Delivery. I was like, what? I was like, it's fine, I'm here, so I can take it. So luckily, I was here. Now, if you see on YouTube community, my little niece is with me as well. Well, she's not here now. Um, she's resting, shall we say. She's with her grandmother now, because she's run ring around me. She's ill, so she was with me this morning. I didn't realize she was going to be with me first thing this morning until this morning. So if you go on there, she is now taken Paddington from me. So I no longer have Paddington Bear. She is taken that. So Erin is fine with it though. Erin is fine with it. So um, it still might be around, but yeah, anything to keep her quiet. Do you know what I mean? So yes, it is your fault because you told me there was three defendants in this trial. There's only one. So I was like, looking at your stuff, I go, small bus Erin, once again, to be fair, I will defend Erin. She did catch me out this morning. I had two trials on at the same time. That was my fault, my bad. So she was one up on me. Then Erin been there and kept talking, didn't she? Then she went round circles and she's back 1-1. She's on the bus with me because she's like, no, there's three defendants. I'm like, no, there's only one. There's three trials, but one defender per each trial. She's like, no, there's three for this one. No, there's not one. Jeez, Erin. I knew if you kept talking, you get back on the bus with me. She's next to me, licking the windows of it. Chris, how are you doing, Chris? Love seeing Chris. How are you? Because it's hard for Chris because Australian time, hard time Australian time. So just so everyone knows what's going on, I'm doing obviously the Krieger family murder trial, which is amazing. Not amazing, but it's whoa, blows my mind. Uh, you know, but we've got a lot of people from Washington themselves. They watching with us. We got like we had. Oh, what was her name? I forgot her name now. But she works in the restaurant of the family, so she was in chat, and a lot of people in chat, so we get to know a lot about the people. Um, but Lunia and Jonathan and people wanted us trial in the afternoon, so that's why I'm playing this one a day behind every day. So two trials a day. Whoosh! I'm a hero. 12-hour days. Here we are on Saturdays. Whoosh! So you're more welcome to come in and out as you want. Chris, lovely to see you. I know this might suit you better than the other one, so lovely to see Chris as always. Here we go. Holy! I said there's three defendants, and this is the first of three. And I told you you scheduled both trials. Yeah, that one. You were right. You were right. But the first one, you made it sound like there's three defendants in this trial. Small bus, small bus. Uh, Mary Viviano, Mary, quite contrary. Mary from New York. Where were you yesterday, Mary? We didn't see you yesterday. We missed you yesterday, Mary. I hope you're well, but we missed you. Here she is. Nunya. Nuns, how are you, my darling? Hope you're well. This is one of the reasons we're watching this, because of Nuns. Right, let me get it up here. Hiya, Mary. Let me get this up here. Um, present. Now, this one, I'm going to be playing it 1.25 or 1.5 at some occasions. Some occasions will be 1.5. Like the start now, I'm going to play at 1.5 because it's only like welcome to the jury, blah 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 blah. Yeah, yes, I was caught. Well, we didn't see you hopping along. You didn't come to hop with us, Mary. We missed you. I thought you were always with us. You cheated on us. It's all good though. It's all good. You caught up. It's all. I'm teasing, Mary. I'm teasing. Unsub. No, you haven't. You have not. Have you? Have you unsubbed? We're doing 12 subs now. No, you have not unsubbed. I knew you hadn't. I knew you hadn't. Beautifully inappropriate. Hello, you again. Another stranger. Nice to see you, beautifully inappropriate. Welcome back. If you guys don't know, we do 2 trials a day. Obviously, people aren't going to be here for 2 trials a day, but I'm doing this a day behind, and then doing the Krieger one. The Krieger one is my main focus, but yeah, I miss you. Well, you could just hopped in here. You caught up with you. You too. How are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing quite well. We're getting good numbers for the Krieger trial. We're averaging probably 40, 50 every trial. We've got about 10 people here, which is good. It's good for me. I'm enjoying myself. It's lovely to see all the people. And just see the shout out as well. We got the Wrongful podcast out. Just remember the Wrongful podcast, Josie and Kayla and all them. They're doing that about Zachariah. That's out today. So please go. Josie will probably drop the link in later on. But I think it's like Wrongful Pod. Oh, damn you. I'll go and get it. I'll go and get it. Go and support, guys. If you believe in Zachariah Anderson, copy link. It's here. It's the first episode's out today. I'm not listening to it yet, but it's out. Hey all, here she's back. Erin HO. The HO cannot leave us. Right, I'm going to start this trial because I want to make sure that we get enough going on it. So we can still chat.
All right.
I will slow it down. I will slow it down. Um,
Right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you come here, go ahead and have a seat. Everyone else stands out of respect for our jury system. Now, the first order of business is that I need to swear you in as the jury. If you would please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm that in the case of the state of Texas against the defendant, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God? Thank you. May be seated. Ms. Niven, please present the indictments to the jury.
Yes, Your Honor. Indictment number 2175651. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Dallas County, state of Texas, duly organized at the January term AD 2021 of the 292nd Judicial District Court for said county, upon its oath, do present in and to said court at said term that Lisa Joe Dykes, hereinafter called defendant, on or about the 5th day of October 2020 in the county of Dallas, state of Texas, did then and there, knowing that an offense had been committed, to wit, murder, alter, destroy, and conceal a thing, to wit, a human corpse, with intent to impair its verity, legibility, and availability as evidence in any subsequent investigation of or official proceeding related to the offense against the peace and dignity of the state. Signed, the foreman of the grand jury.
Mr. Harris, I'm your client. Please to that charge.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Dykes is not guilty.
Indictment number F21-75476. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Dallas County, state of Texas, duly organized at the January term AD 2021 of the 292nd Judicial District Court for said county, upon its oath, do present in and to said court at said term that Lisa Joe Dykes, hereinafter called defendant, on or about the 5th day of October 2020 in the county of Dallas, state of Texas, did unlawfully, then and there, intentionally and knowingly cause the death of Marisela Botello, an individual, hereinafter called deceased, by stabbing deceased with a knife and sharp object, a deadly weapon, and by a manner unknown to the grand jury, using a deadly weapon unknowable to the grand jury, a deadly weapon. and further did unlawfully then and there intend to cause serious bodily injury to Marisela Botello Valadez, hereinafter called deceased, and then and there commit an act so clearly dangerous to human life, to wit, by stabbing deceased with a knife,
Okay,
a sharp
Dave.
object, a deadly weapon, and by a manner unknown to the grand jury, using a deadly weapon unknowable to the grand jury, and did thereby cause the death of Marisela Botello Valadez, an individual, against the peace and dignity of the state, signed at the permanent grand jury.
How does your client plead, Mr. Chair?
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Dykes pleads not guilty.
Will the state make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here.
Right. Is that too fast? Is 1.5 too fast for you guys? I could put it back to 1.25 if you prefer. It might be a little bit too fast for some of you. If it is, just let me know. I don't mind changing back to 1.25. It's fine for me. It's too fast. Fine. You see? We'll go back to 1.25. I will be 1.5 at some, well, there's boring stuff. So there we go. Hi, Dirk, as well.
Here about Marisela
Here we are.
Botello Valadez. She's a beautiful, young, 23-year-old girl, full of life, that came here to Dallas just to visit. She loved to travel. She had a friend here in Dallas. She came for a long weekend. Her plan was to come down October 2nd of 2020, spend a few days hanging out, doing things that 23-year-olds do, going down to Deep Ellum, going out to places to eat, meeting her friend Raul Ortiz, and hang out with his friends. That's all this was about. It was just a break from Seattle for a while, a break from her job where she was an assistant manager at Charlotte Russe, just kind of a break from that family life of living with her parents and her little brother, just to have some fun. But she never returned back on that flight that she had scheduled for October 5th, back to Seattle. If you can imagine, and I'm sure some of you that have flown before, and that announcement at the gate where you hear, we're looking for passenger so-and-so, and in this case, passenger Marisela Botello Valadez, please report to the gate. You know, I never thought about it until this case, what that could mean. And in this case, it meant Marisela Botello was stabbed brutally just in the early hours of that morning by this woman here, Lisa Dykes. Marisela had never even met her, did not even know her. But who she did meet was Charles Beltran. Charles Beltran was also a co-defendant in this case, and we expect that you will hear from him later. Charles Beltran, to understand the whys of this case, how it happened, why it happened, the motive, you have to understand a lot of the backstory. We're going to spend a lot of time putting the pieces of the puzzle together for you and showing you the backstory of this situation between Lisa Dykes, Charles Beltran, and a third co-defendant, Nina Morano. What you're going to learn is that Lisa Dykes met Charles Beltran. He's a much younger man. He is, at that time, in his late 20s. He was working at a bar that Lisa Dykes' son, Kyle Williams, was managing. Charles was a doorman. He's quite the ladies' man. He's very flirtatious. And that's just kind of what he does. He goes out, he parties, he has a rap career that's trying to start up, and just is a ladies' man. You're going to hear from lots of his girlfriends, several at one time, about who Charles Beltran is. The importance of that, and what you need to know, is that Lisa picked up on the fact that not only was Charles a ladies' man, he was also a young man that had no means for himself. He made about $100 a night at this bar being a doorman. Lisa Dykes could provide him with a life he had never lived before. She met him, she started taking him to fancy dinners, to places he never even dreamed about even going to eat, much less on a regular basis. Through that relationship, it became somewhat romantic and physical in nature. And what Lisa Dykes could provide for Charles Beltran was a good life, a car, a place to live, a studio for his rap career, and really just whatever he wanted clothes-wise, rap for his music, anything she would provide for him. And what he provided for her was some sort of companionship, some physical relationship with her. This continued on until you heard the name Nina Morano. Nina Morano came into the picture. What you're going to learn there from colleagues of Lisa Dykes and people and associates that she knew was that she started talking about Nina. They'd been friends for a long time. You're going to learn that Nina was recently widowed. She lived in Pennsylvania. She's a lawyer, recently widowed, and Lisa Dykes struck up a more intimate friendship with Nina than it had been before. Just months after the death of Nina's husband, Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano get married. They understood, though, that Charles Beltran would be a part of this relationship and a part of this situation. So the three of them
Hi, John. No, you've missed nothing. This is just opening statement, but nothing.
had this physical relationship and this understanding between each other that they would have each other's back and they would take care of each other. All the while they knew, again, about Chuck being a ladies' man. He would bring women home from time to time. He would go out, stay out with women, things of that nature. This relationship seemed to go okay at first, but then over time, Miss Dykes didn't really like that. She wasn't getting what she wanted from Mr. Beltran at the frequency that she wanted. She had done all these things for him, paid all this money for his rap career, paid all this money for his car, done all these things. And this particular night, October 4th, 2020, that's the night that Marisela met Charles Beltran. They had just come back from a rap show that Charles Beltran had performed in Camden, Arkansas. Miss Dykes funded the trip. She got a Sprinter van for Mr. Beltran and some of his friends. She paid for hotel rooms. They went to the show. The money had to be paid for a slot for the show. She followed behind with Nina Morano. And they all went and partied on October 3rd, 2020. They had a great time, lots of drinks, lots of partying, lots of fun. When they returned the next day, instead of Mr. Beltran staying at home, he decided to go out to Deep Ellum with some of his friends and celebrate the show that he just performed in. And that's where fate met Marisela Botello. Charles Beltran met her on the sidewalk in Deep Ellum. She was there alone because the person that she had come to see, Raul Ortiz, had passed out at his his apartment complex just nearby Deep Ellum in the Camden Farmers Market area. They had gone out. He had taken it a little too far, and she wasn't ready to quit partying and hanging out. And he passed out at his door, unable to get into his apartment.
Ti'n clywed e?
Ti'n clywed e?
Na.
Topa e lan, beth sa ti fyna? Dwydo ti? Ti'n gweud diolch?
Diolch. Ellen.
Auntie Erin.
Auntie Ellen.
Diolch.
Diolch.
Do you hear what she said? She said, thank you, Auntie Erin, for Paddington. Yay! She's super excited. Ti'n gweud, na ni? Ti'n hapus nawr? Diolch, Auntie Erin.
Diolch Auntie Ellen.
You see, diolch, Auntie Erin, she did say that as well. There's Harley.
No.
Right, so, got to go for a foul. Right, she only want to say hello to everyone quickly. And she's a little bit ill, but she wanted to say hello. So, just so you all know, Paddington is now gone, and she has got Paddington from now on. So, we'll see. Right, ti'n gweud y tai pawb there? Oh no! I think so. The brute came off again. Oh, dim ots. Dim ots. Mae'n gyd i gweud, ti'n wafod yn nhw? Ti'n gweud cael i ti? Oh! She's blowing kisses. Can I go kisses, you know? Mwah.
No.
Right, ti'n mwyn hwnna? Right, gweud ta tai de i pawb. So ti'n mwyn? Ti'n mwyn aros? Okay. Right, she's going to stay for a little bit, right? I'll put this on. But Erin, I hope you heard her say thank you, Auntie Erin, in Welsh. Uncle Dylan, yeah.
Ti'n gweud Uncle Dylan?
Apartment because he lost his keys. Marisela took a lift down to Deep Ellum. She was walking the sidewalks, going into various bars, and she met Charles Beltran on the sidewalk. You're going to hear from Charles Beltran about what happened that night. You're going to hear how she was really cool. She was very likable, and they had a great time together. And then you're going to hear about how Lisa Dykes, in the early morning hours of October 5th, 2020, entered that room, Charles Beltran's bedroom, got on top of Miss Botello Valadez and stabbed her. She was in her sleep, as was Charles. He was awakened by shaking on the bed. He saw Lisa as she was coming down with an object in her hand that looked like a kitchen knife. And in his days of waking up, he wasn't sure what to do, and he shoved Lisa off of her. And there was a brief fight where Marisela was fighting for her life on the floor next to his bed. At that point, he was able to separate them. Marisela fell back down on the bed where she lay motionless. Just met this man hours ago. Never even knew this lady right here. From there, Charles panicked. He washed his hands off, cleaned up a little bit, came back to call 911, and she said, wait just a minute. Think about what you're doing. And he said, take care of this. And left. And left her and Nina Morano to take care of what had just happened and to take care of Marisela Botello Valadez's body. And what did they do? Did they call 911? No. Did they call for help? No. They did everything they could to hide what had just happened. Her body was dumped unceremoniously on this country road out in Wilmer, Texas. It wasn't found until months later. No remains, no flesh on the bones, just bones. That's all there was left of her. March 24th, 2021. That's when they found her body. Now, you're going to hear about not only the evidence that shows that it was Miss Dykes and Nina Morano that were out of that location where the body was found months later. You're also going to hear about their reaction to when they found out that law enforcement was onto them. They knew who they needed to look for. They knew who the last person was that was with Marisela Botello Valadez, and they knew they had to get out of town. On October 15th, the FBI contacted Miss Dykes at her place of employment. You're going to hear testimony about how she reacted to that. She, Nina, and Charles Beltran went to Pennsylvania where Nina lived for some time. You're going to hear evidence about how they went back and forth to Mexico. You're going to hear evidence about how they finally were arrested. Nina Morano and Lisa Beltran were finally arrested in Florida. Nina Morano was arrested first, and you would think Miss Dykes would wait around for her wife. The gig was up at that point. No, she continued to run and was picked up in Orlando the day after her wife was arrested in Miami, Florida at their apartment. You're going to see the evidence that was collected at that time, messages from cell phones, things that will tell you she knew that law enforcement was looking for her. She knew what she should have done. You would think that that would be the end of it, right? Miss Morano was a woman of means. As I had told you before, she was recently widowed from her husband that she had lived with and been married to for 30-something years. He had a lot of property. He had some money. Nina was an attorney. She had a lot of money. She was able to afford for her and Miss Dykes to bond out with the condition that they stay in Dallas on a leg monitor. You're going to hear evidence of 4 months, they complied with that. And then on Christmas Day, their leg monitor quit sending signal to the ELM service provider. The signal was gone. Of course, it's Christmas. Nobody is watching continuously at that moment for this signal. And they were able to fly to Cambodia. If you want to go to a place where you know or you think that you are going to escape justice, Cambodia. The 2 women fled to Cambodia, where they remained for months until they were finally apprehended by the FBI. You're also going to see evidence from that seizure of when they were arrested in Cambodia and some of the contents of their laptops and cell phones from Cambodia that showed that they were trying to flee justice. Now, we've talked a whole lot about this backstory, and we've talked a lot about the flight and the evidence that you should expect to see. I told you what we expect Charles Beltran to tell you about what happened that day, but you don't have to just believe his words, because there is physical evidence to back up what he said. We're not asking you just to believe Charles Beltran based on the time that you see him up here and based on the time that you get to hear him testify and the character that you hear about him and things of that nature. You're going to learn that he's a felon. You're going to learn, like I said before, that he's a ladies' man. I don't know that you're even going to like this guy. You don't have to. You may find him charming, like all the women that he talked to found him charming. You may find him not so charming. You may find him to be somewhat of a self-centered person. I don't know. That's for you to decide. But what I'm telling you is you do not have to rely 100% on his word, because the physical evidence is going to corroborate what he said. Witness testimony is going to corroborate what he tells you happened. Witness testimony and physical evidence and documents and cell phone records are going to corroborate the flight that he discusses that he went when he went on the run with Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. Thank you, Judge. You all said in Fort Dyer, Mr. Brown continued to discuss how context and perspective are important. And that's why you are going to get all these pieces of the puzzle, because the context of this and putting all these pieces of the puzzle into perspective is what's the most important thing. Wait until you hear everything before you piece it together and decide whether or not what you believe happened to Marisela Botello. And I believe at the conclusion of the evidence, I know at the conclusion of the evidence, what you are going to decide is that this young lady right here, sweet, fun-loving Marisela Botello Valadez, it just came down here for a long weekend, was killed by Lisa Dykes. Her body dumped outside south of Dallas in Wilmer on a country road by Miss Dykes and her wife, Nina Morano. Just unceremoniously, so that they could get away with murder. At the conclusion of this, we are going to ask you to find Miss Dykes guilty of both murder and tampering with a corpse. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Mr. Harris, will the defense make an opening statement?
Absolutely, Judge.
You have 17 minutes. Sir.
Thank you, Judge. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for accepting responsibility as jurors. There are many excuses you could have given us that would allow us to strike you. You didn't do that. You accept responsibility. For that, I thank you, and Ms. Dykes thanks you. Now, more important, it's time for the state to accept responsibility for this indictment, that these allegations that have been made against Mrs. Dykes. Now, when you talk about these allegations, you talk about these pieces of puzzle. Who was in charge of putting these pieces of puzzle together? Detective Christina Ramirez is trying to force these pieces of the puzzle together to get a conviction on Lisa Dykes, Nina Morano, and Charles Beltran. So, again, what we say is not evidence. But ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you, you're not going to get a 911 call from a Charles Beltran on October 5th, on the morning hours of October 5th, 2020. Okay? The bottom line is this is what happens. Miss Marisela does come to Dallas from Seattle. She is meeting with her ex. She goes to stay with her ex-boyfriend, Raul. I think I'm saying his name right. Bottom line is they go out. They're drinking. They're drinking. They're drinking. They come back. He's drunk. She's been drinking too. It's 1:12. It's after midnight. I think the record says about 1:30 what Raul was going to tell you. He can't get into his apartment because he's so drunk he can't find his key. Now, again, you'll see how Marisela was dressed. And again, all the things I'm saying, I'm not here to try to say anything negative about her personally. I'm just giving you the facts. You'll see how she was dressed. I believe if Raul tells you the truth, he's going to talk about the fact that there was drug use, that she used drugs during this period of time. In fact, not only was she drinking, he's going to, I believe, say that she was using Percocet. I believe if Charles Beltran tells you the truth, the way she met him is she goes, I think she takes an Uber back to Deep Ellum. This little lady, 1:30 in the morning, goes back to Deep Ellum. All right? Because, again, yeah, she's here for fun. She's not trying to just sleep on a cold porch waiting for Raul's roommate to come and let them in. She takes a Uber back to Deep Ellum. When she gets there, looking for fun, she runs into Charles Beltran and one of his friends that I anticipate you're going to hear from. And she's looking for weed. But she gets way more than weed from Charles Beltran. We know this because what happens is you're going to actually see a video of her and Charles Beltran entering the 7-Eleven in that Deep Ellum area. That's how we know that he was the last person seen with her. Okay, there's even still footage of still photos that show both of them, in the 7-Eleven. They leave the 7-Eleven, and Charles Beltran, when he's telling the numerous stories that he tells the detectives, that he tells law enforcement, that he tells numerous friends about his contact with Marcellus. Because see, what happens is at some point, she goes missing. She misses her flight, and the family, they report her missing. So now he goes back down to Deep Ellum, and there's literally posters of this girl, and people start asking Charles, "What you with her?" And he's, "Oh yeah, we had sex. Oh, we smoked some weed, had sex in the car. Then she left. Oh no. Then he tells another girl, "No, I took her over to Mesquite. We had sex over there. I went in the studio. She was asleep. I went in the studio. Next thing I know, she's gone. I assumed she took the Uber." That's another story. Story after story changes and changes. Even when Charles Beltran is called, what he tells Detective Ramirez is, again, yeah, we went to Miss Dykes' house in Mesquite. We had sex. She fell asleep. I went in the studio. That's what I always do. I have girls over there all the time. It was no big deal. You can look at the Ring cameras. I have women over there all the time. That's what I do. I thought she just left and got Uber. But when Detective Ramirez lies to him, and I say it's a lie, or infers to him, well, why is your blood with her blood at the house? You know you can get the death penalty. You can get the death penalty. Well, I submit to you, the evidence is going to show that Charles is so, they've been drinking all night. They've been smoking all night. He also uses ecstasy. I don't know what all he may have given Marcella. We don't know because her body was so badly decomposed at the time they finally find it. We don't know what all she took while she was here in Dallas County. We have no idea. What we do know is that there were several people that indicated to law enforcement, to Detective Ramirez and other law enforcement, whether it was Detective Ramirez, whether it was the FBI, that they believe they saw her. They believe they saw her after October 5th, back in Deep Ellum, at one place, a Reno bar. They had surveillance video. They tried to look at the surveillance video. The lady said, "Well, whoever it was, it looked like her. I thought it was her. She was tweaking. Tweaking is, when you're so high, people can tell you're high." But the video was so grainy they couldn't tell whether it was her or not. But regardless, the lady believed that's the lady on the posters. That's her. That's what she told the FBI. That's what information that they gave Ramirez. And this is after these phone records show that she go over to Mesquite with Beltran. Okay, even more information about her being cited after. Yet numerous people call and say, "Look," well, first guy said, "Look, I got concern for this person. I think it's the lady that's missing. I think it's the lady that's missing." Ramirez does nothing with that information. Nothing with that information. More importantly, I think it's October the 12th. Officer Hayes, because they're still looking for myself. They're still looking for October the 12th. He goes over to, it's not Deep Ellum, it's another place, because they're looking everywhere for this girl. They're checking out the local drug locations, where users typically go. They go off 35, Mustang Inn. Mustang Inn, they come in contact with two brothers who say, "No, yeah, we saw her. We saw her." In fact, there was a wellness call that was made concerned about this girl. They talked to Officer Hayes. But, now that was, I believe, October the 13th, the evidence was shown. They tell me, yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. So because they said it was a couple weeks ago, oh, he discounts what they said. Well, it could have been a couple weeks ago. She just got here. That's less than 2 weeks. But they were just speculating on how long. They just know they saw her, and it could have been a couple weeks ago. But they just disregard that information. But more importantly, what the guy said, well, she also hangs out at the City Inn. You got Mustang Inn is here on 35. You go a little further south. There's a place called the City Inn. And they come in contact. That same officer goes down there. He's showing a photo of Marcellus. He's showing a photo. Shows it to a security guard there. Yeah, she was here last night. But his name is Floyd Mitchell, the security guard. I anticipate you're going to hear from him. What you're not going to see is you won't see the body cam footage from that interview that Officer Hayes had with Mr. Mitchell. You won't see how definite he was about, no, I just saw that girl. I just saw her. In fact, not only does she hang out here, she goes down to Valero. I saw her going down toward Valero, which is on Mercedes. Okay? A little further south. They go to Valero, ask them, have y'all seen her? Have any of y'all seen her? They say, no, we haven't seen her. But what they don't do, because it's not a puzzle piece they need, it doesn't fit their theory of the case. Valero has videos. They didn't check videos. Detective Ramirez said go back over there and check the videos, see if there's any sighting of Marcellus. There's also a shell station that they talk about that's further up north on 35, over by the Mustang Inn, where they say they saw Marcellus. They don't follow up with any of that because that piece of the puzzle don't fit their theory of the case, her theory of the case. Because this is her case. This is her case. Detective Ramirez is the one who's going from state to state, city to city, collecting pieces of the puzzle to try to prove that Miss Dykes stabbed. What's up? Now, I believe the evidence is going to show Mrs. Dykes is going to tell you she's never met Marcellus. She's never met this young lady. And she could care less about the women that Charles was having at that house. He was a rapper that she was investing in. Yes, was there some twisted, what do you call it, love triangle between the, yes, yes. But you're talking about Chuck Gorgeous. That's what he calls himself, Chuck Gorgeous. Because of the way he manipulates women, womanizes women. It's all in this. He's a rapper. I don't know. I'm gonna try to let you listen to some of his lyrics. I want you to hear how he feels about women. I hope I can show you some of his videos. How he feels about women. Who this guy is. He calls himself Chuck 50-50. Half amazing, half crazy. She knew both sides. She knew both sides. And unfortunately for Marcellus, the evidence is going to show she found out about the crazy side. Now, at the end of the day, we're going to argue, we're going to talk about whether the puzzles fit and whether the pieces of the puzzles fit, whether this evidence all adds up to a murder conviction. I submit to you that it does not, because in order for you to believe that this death was caused by stabbing, like Chuck said, you're going to have to believe Chuck. Because I submit to you, the physical evidence that I believe they're going to present is not consistent with his version of the case. Regardless of the fact that he's lied numerous times, it's not consistent with his version of the case. Because it didn't happen the way I don't know what happened to Marcellus. Miss Dykes doesn't know what happened. She's going to tell you she doesn't know what happened to Marcellus. Has she been to Wilma? Absolutely, she's been to Wilma. Was she a woman during that time period? She's been a woman numerous times. That doesn't mean she killed Marcellus. I believe the evidence is going to show that even though they're going to say that, whoa, we got Nino Morano and Lisa Dykes' phones in the Wilmer area where Marcellus' phone is speaking off the same tower where Marcellus' body is found. There's not going to be one shred of evidence that's going to prove to you the other reason about that on October the 5th of 2020, Marcellus' body is even in. No. They don't know when that body got there. They don't have one witness to support women. All they know is months later, they find her bones. No hair to test to determine whether or not, what all substances did she have overdose? I mean, what happened? If she's tweaking, the numerous different side effects of tweaking, seizures, blood, your nose bleeds, many things can happen. And before my time runs out, let me also make sure I cover this part. Listen, ladies, the reason I'm talking about Christina Ramirez, Detective Ramirez, is because this all starts with an arrest warrant. That arrest warrant concludes or has probable cause, what she believed was probable cause to present to a judge so that she could arrest Ms. Dykes, Ms. Morano, and Mr. Beltran. It initially started with capital murder. That was the charge. Detective Ramirez said, oh, we got evidence for capital murder. Not only do I have all of them together in Mesquite, which is, again, kind of playing with it, we are telling you we lived there. Those phones, yes, say that they all were at Mesquite on October the 5th, the early morning hours, but that doesn't mean that they were communicating together. It just means that they're all bounced off the same tower. But, that's what she kind of refers to a judge. They're together. We know they're.
Welcome, Rosie. Hello, Rosie. I think it's your first time here, so welcome to the channel. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Then they further say in the affidavits that we find hair samples that we believe are consistent with Marcellus in the trunk of an Audi that Charles was driving. No one talked about that Audi and how he lies about. First he says he leaves in he tells him so many stories that it's hard for me to keep up with it all. But I believe his first story was he left in the Tucson. But then we know he left in the Audi where they're saying they found his hair because he stops at a oil change place at 9. So he wants you to believe our witness is horrific murder in the early morning hours, whatever, right? And then, I stopped and do an oil change at 9 o'clock on October 5th. They got the records. If they don't submit them, I will. Now, more importantly, in this affidavit which leads to an arrest, which leads to search warrants, they lied about Marcela's blood being found with Chuck's blood. When I say Chuck, I'm referring to Charles Beltran. Oh, okay, let me rephrase that. They don't, she said it appears, we believe that the blood that's found with Marcellus belongs to Lisa Dykes and Nina Moreno and Chuck Beltran. The blood that's found in that house, their blood is found together. That's how she gets this arrest warrant. All that blood is supposed to be found together. They use words like it appears, we believe, but they're still telling a judge, they're referring to a judge, that all these people were together and we find her blood, all their blood together. That's what they're telling them to get this arrest warrant. Then subsequent to that, they say that Nina and Lisa's phones were found in a dense area where the body is later found. That's what the evidence is going to show, ladies and gentlemen. Again, all that was speculation. And we'll argue more about, where their phones actually go to and will. But more importantly, I want you to know that when Swifts, who does our forensics, does the DNA, yeah, there is blood belonging to Marcellus, but it's not with. It doesn't belong to Chuck. It doesn't belong to Lisa. It doesn't belong to Nina. It belongs to another female and another male. Because again, it wasn't unusual for Chuck to bring people over to that house, over to his room, whether it's in the studio or whatever it is, okay? It wasn't unusual. And we're going to talk to him about that. So I don't know who all he brought over there with him. I don't know why their blood is mixed with Marcella's blood, but it is. That's the facts. Those are the facts. So we don't know, again, how she died. We don't know who caused her murder. In order for you to believe that, again, you have to believe Chuck. And what I submit to you is, based on the physical evidence, the little blood that they found, it's not going to be consistent, or it won't corroborate his version. Because it didn't happen the way he said it happened. Numerous people know that Marcellus was seen after going over to Mesquite. Oh, all this running stuff. Let me talk about this. I want to also make sure, because I believe you're going to hear about Santa Marta. Chuck, I think the detective, because of his record, which you're going to learn about his record. Thank you, Judge. You're going to learn about his record. He's going to say, well, I didn't believe, because of my record, I didn't believe anybody would believe that I didn't have anything to do with it, that I wasn't the one that killed him. The detective said, yeah, they're going to think you're a monster. They're probably going to believe you're a monster because you're the one with a violent history. You're the womanizer. You're the one that's the monster. No one's going to believe you. That's what he thought. And why would you? Why would you? When you see they're going to bring him in here, I'm going to show you how you look back then. I'm going to show you what Miss Marcella ran into down in Deep Ellum. Now, the bottom line is, I believe that Lisa's going to tell you that they went to Cambodia just because they felt that Detective Ramirez was persecuting them. They felt like the government was persecuting them. Yeah, we got to go somewhere where we can try to be political refugees, where we can try to get a fair trial. We're not getting a fair shake here in America. So yeah, they go to Cambodia, and then they're extradited back. Yeah, they're guilty of that. But as far as evidence that corroborates the indictment in this case, that on October the 4th or October the 5th, that Lisa Dykes stabbed, and again, don't let him try to minimize what he said, because you're going to see, anyway, you're see so many different versions of what he said. But he's saying that he stabbed him. He knocks him off the bed onto the floor. The evidence in that room is not consistent with someone having stab wounds, getting onto the floor. It's not consistent with someone stabbing someone. Ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to all the evidence in this case, when you've heard all the witnesses, we believe the law will dictate that you find Ms. Dykes not guilty. Not because that's what I want you to do, or what Ms. Dykes wants you to do, Ms. Bassett, but because that's what the law is going to dictate that you do. Because Charles Beltran cannot be trusted. And there is not evidence to corroborate what he says. I don't know if Charles killed Ms. Valadez. I don't know what happened to Ms. Valadez. Whether she died of overdose or what. What I do know is that they will not be able to prove to you that Ms. Dykes committed this offense because she didn't. And at the conclusion, we're gonna ask that you find her not guilty because she is not guilty.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Pittman, call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the state calls Ernestina Valadez.
Under the court's attention that this witness does not speak the English language. Madam Interpreter, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will
Oh,
translate
jeez.
from English to Spanish and Spanish back to English? All of the questions, answers, and proceedings today.
I do, Your Honor.
Please state your name and license number.
Carol Pierce, Pierce, license number 1663.
Ma'am, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Sí, lo juro.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please put your hand.
Just, can we move
The
Go.
television? Yes.
just a little bit?
Just, you can put it on the floor, and just be careful, there's a microphone.
Yes, I just want to just slightly, just so we can see her as well. I'm just gonna turn it a little bit, if that's okay. I see it, I see it, I see it. No, we good, we good. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Pittman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you state your name for the court reporter and spell your name, please?
Mi nombre es Ernestina Valadez Frutos.
My name is Ernestina Valadez Frutos.
And Ms. Frutos, can you tell the jury what your relationship with Marisela is?
Mi relación con ella era muy bonita.
My relationship with her was very nice.
And she was your daughter, correct?
Sí, ella es mi primera hija.
Yeah, she's my first daughter.
And how old was she the last time that you saw her?
23 años.
23 years.
I want to go back and have you tell the jury a little bit about your family. Where was Marisela born?
Ella siempre fue muy alegre, muy amigable.
She was always very friendly, very joyous.
Confiaba mucho en sus amigos, en las personas.
She trusted her friends, people.
No desconfiaba. Ella siempre quería que nosotros tuviéramos amigos.
She didn't suspect of anybody. She always wanted us to have friends.
And I want to stop you for just a minute. I want us to talk more about Marisela in just a minute, but I want to talk about kind of her history and the history of your family, okay?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. Now, where was Marisela born?
Ella nació en norte de Carolina.
She was born in North Carolina.
And who's her father?
Salvador Botello, aquí presente.
Salvador Botello, present.
Okay. And you all have been married for how long?
Tenemos casados a 28 años.
We've been married for 28 years.
Now, you all lived in North Carolina. That's where Marisela was born. When did you all move to Seattle?
Ella nació allá y nos venimos cuando ella tenía 8 meses. Para Seattle, perdón.
She was born there, and then we moved to Seattle when she was 8 months old.
And what brought you all to Seattle?
Mi esposo solo trabajaba y estaba muy retirado de su trabajo, no tenía carro, tenía que tomar un ride, entonces era muy difícil.
Well, my husband was the only one that worked, and he had no car. He had to take a ride. It was very hard.
Y aquí tenía sus hermanas y nos venimos para acá porque le hablaban que aquí había más oportunidad de trabajo.
And he had his sisters here, and we came here because we were told that there was more work here.
And did your husband Salvador eventually get a good job in Seattle?
Sí,
Yes.
And my understanding is he's been with that same company for 25 years.
sí, sí.
Yes.
Okay. And we had the opportunity to visit your home in Seattle. Did Marisela live with you in that home?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, and it's an apartment, is that right?
Yes.
How long had you all lived in that apartment?
En ese departamento fui como casi 24 años.
In that apartment, almost like 24 years.
24 years in the same apartment.
Sí.
Yes.
And who lived with you in that apartment?
Nada más mi esposo, mi hijo y mi hija.
Just my husband, my son, and my daughter.
Okay. And your son's also here today, that Mr.
Sí, aquí está.
Luis Botello.
Yes.
Now, did Marisela graduate from high school?
Yes.
What kinds of activities did she like to do in high school?
A ella le gustaba correr, running se llama, no estoy segura, pero
She
corría.
liked to run, track, I think it's called, I'm not sure.
Did she like to work out?
Mucho.
A lot.
Okay, did she have any issues in school with, you know, showing up to school, attendance, things of that nature?
No, no.
No, no.
Okay, so she was a good student.
Sí.
Yes.
What were her dreams? What did she want to do with her life after high school?
Ella quería seguir estudiando, pero lamentablemente pues nosotros no nos alcanzaba para pagarle sus estudios, entonces ella trabajó y regresó al colegio para estudiar. Decía que quería ser nutrióloga o nutrióloga.
She wanted to continue studying, but unfortunately we couldn't afford her studies, so she began to work, and then she went back to school because she said that she wanted to be a nutritionist.
So she had aspirations, she had dreams to go to college, do something bigger with herself in her life.
Sí, sí,
Yes.
sí, sí, sí.
Yes, yes.
You said that she worked, was there ever a time that she was without a job?
Sí, se quedó sin trabajo en la pandemia.
Yes, during the pandemic, she was out of work.
Okay, and at some point was she able to find work again, kind of when the businesses started reopening?
Sí, sí.
Yes.
And other than the pandemic, was she just continuously employed?
Siempre, siempre. Se le terminaba uno o por alguna razón no iba porque ella siempre tomaba bus, no tenía carro, entonces a veces estaba muy retirado del trabajo, dejaba ese, pero agarraba uno más cortito.
Always, always. Sometimes maybe she had to quit a job because it was too far away. She didn't have a car, so she had to take the bus, but she would take another job right away.
And my understanding is you and your daughter worked at the same place for some time, is that correct?
Sí, cuando ella tenía 16 años, ella quiso aplicar donde yo trabajaba en Wendy's, duré 12 años ahí, y ella trabajó de 16 a 18 años, ella duró ahí 2 años.
Yes. At one time, when she was 16, she applied at the same job where I was working at Wendy's, where I worked for 12 years, and she worked there for 2 years since she was 16 until she was 18.
And from 16 to 18, you all worked together. When she graduated from high school, did she ever leave your house or did she always live?
Alguna vez se movió a un lugar porque estaba cortito su trabajo, se movió para allá, pero fue corto tiempo, no es como ni tal vez 8 meses.
At one time, because of work, she moved out, but it was for a short time, about 8 months.
Okay, and then she moved back in with you and your family?
Sí.
Yes.
What kind of rules did you have for being, I guess, an adult living in your home?
Pues como toda mamá, uno siempre quiere que los hijos no salgan hasta muy tarde, eso le decíamos, y si se le hacía muy tarde, entonces decíamos, no, aquí no vas a llegar tarde, tenemos, digamos, hasta las 12.
Well, like any mother, you don't want your children to come back really late, to be out late. So we would tell her, no, you have to come back at the most at midnight, 12.
And did she generally follow those rules?
Sí,
Yes.
Was she respectful about communicating with you and letting you know where she was?
sí, sí.
Yes, yes.
Sí, por alguna razón, como le digo, ella no manejaba, se quedaba, por alguna razón que era muy tarde o nevaba, se quedaba con su amiga que siempre, donde vivía, se quedaba ahí, pero era porque no podía tomar un Uber o era muy tarde.
Yes, if for any reason it got really, really late and she couldn't come back or it was snowing, then she would stay with her friend, with her best friend, and but she would always tell me.
Okay. And who was her best friend?
En aquel tiempo se llamaba Samantha, una muchacha que vivía en el centro de Seattle.
At that time, it was a girl called Samantha. It was a girl that lived in downtown Seattle.
Okay. Did she like to travel?
Mucho, a ella le gustaba viajar, conocer lugares.
A lot. She liked to travel, to know new places.
And did she sometimes travel alone?
Últimamente sí.
Recently, yeah, she did.
How did you feel about that?
Yo siempre le decía que no estaba bien que viajara sola. Yo siempre fui muy como miedosa, se puede decir, me daba miedo que viajara sola. Y ella decía, no, mam, a mí no me va a pasar nada, ¿qué me van a hacer? Nadie me va a hacer nada. Ella confiaba mucho en las personas que la rodeaban.
Well, I didn't really like the fact that she wanted to travel alone. I was scared, but she would say, no, Mom, what's going to happen to me? She liked to trust people a lot.
When she did travel, did she communicate with you?
Sí, todo el
Yes,
tiempo.
all the time.
Did she let you know what her plans were?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay, so you knew when she was gonna leave and when she was supposed to return.
sí.
yes.
Was there ever a time in the 23 years that you all, I guess, just lost contact with each other, or she just didn't communicate with you?
No, todo el tiempo tuvimos contacto.
No, we were in contact all the time.
So I want to talk about when she decided to travel to Dallas. First of all, how did you feel about her going to Dallas alone?
Por principio, para decir verdad, igual me dio miedo porque me dijo que venía sola, pero estaban los tickets baratos por la pandemia.
In the beginning, actually, yes, I was scared, but because she was coming by herself, but tickets were very cheap at that time because of the pandemic.
And how did she make you feel like it was going to be okay?
Sí.
Yes, yes.
She was going to leave on October 2nd, is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
And do you recall if you all took her to the airport, or if her friend took her, or how she got there?
No, ella tomó un Uber porque lo tomó a las 6 de la mañana. 6 de la mañana, pero yo me levanté, la miré cuando sacó su maleta y bajó los escalones. Ella venía muy contenta que venía a Dallas.
She took an Uber. She left at 6 a.m. and I saw her when she was picking up her suitcase, and she was so happy that she was coming back to Dallas, that she was coming to Dallas.
Is that the last time you saw her?
Sí.
Yes.
Now, you knew that she was supposed to return on October 5th, is that correct?
El 5, ella tenía que tomar su vuelo para atrás.
Yes, on the 5th, she had to take the plane back.
Do you recall what time her flight was supposed to get back in on the 5th?
Exactamente, no me acuerdo si 1 o 2, no recuerdo, pero yo le texteé para asegurarme que qué horas llegaba. Nunca me contestó.
I'm not sure exactly what time, 1 or 2, and I texted her asking her what time she would arrive, but she never answered.
At what point did you, as a family, begin to be concerned about Marisela and her whereabouts?
Mi sobrino me contactó y me dijo que algo estaba mal porque no había tomado su vuelo, y él le habló a Dennis, que trabaja en el aeropuerto, e investigaron que se había tomado el vuelo o no, y efectivamente no lo había tomado.
Well, a nephew called me and he said that something was wrong because she hadn't taken the flight, and he called Dennis that works at the airport, and they began investigating, and in fact, she hadn't taken the flight.
And then, Nestle, that is your cousin, is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
And she works for an airline, so she can look at who boards flights and who doesn't. Is that right? What went through your mind when she learned that she hadn't boarded her flight and you hadn't heard from her?
Por un momento pensé que pues lo había perdido, o que tal vez lo iba a tomar después, porque pues en ese momento ella sí trabajaba en Charlie Roots. Charlie Roots trabajaba en una tienda de Charlie Roots. Ella tenía que regresar, entonces sí se me hizo extraño que no lo hubiera tomado, entonces sí tuve un mal presentimiento.
Well, at first I thought that she had missed the plane or that she had changed it for a later one, but she was working at Charlotte Roots at that time. So I began to worry because she had to go back to work. That's when I began to really worry.
And was it like her to ever miss work?
No, nunca faltaba.
No, she never missed.
Ella tenía un cargo, no era asistente de manager.
Her position was, I think, manager assistant.
And part of that, I guess, work ethic comes from you and your husband, where you all work every day.
Sí, muy responsable siempre.
Yes, very responsible, always.
When you learned that she did not get on that flight and you couldn't get a hold of her, what did your family do?
Platicamos con mi esposo y al otro día, porque eso fue un lunes 5 que no supimos nada de ella, hablamos para acá al departamento de policía con la ayuda de mi sobrino Salvador. No nos dijeron nada, entonces hicimos arreglos y vino para acá mi esposo con Denis.
Well, on that day, we talked with my husband, and then we decided to call here. We called the police, and our family member, Dennis, helped us.
When you called the police, did you report her missing?
Sí, hicimos como un reporte.
Yes, we did. We made a report.
And what was their kind of response?
Exactamente no dijeron nada. Dijeron que no había por qué preocuparse porque solamente habían pasado horas. Entonces no era como por qué preocuparse, fue la respuesta que nos dieron.
Well, actually, they told us not to worry because it had just been a matter of hours, so not to worry. That's the answer we got.
And did you follow up with them when she didn't return the next day and there was no communication?
Al día siguiente fue cuando mi esposo con Denise tomaron el vuelo para acá, para Dallas.
The next day, my husband and Denise took a flight to here, to Dallas.
So it was such a concern because she was so responsible about communicating with you, you immediately took action.
Claro que sí, claro
Of
que sí.
course.
That's it.
And when your husband and Danny came down, what did they do, if you know?
Vinieron al departamento de policía y igual entraron, dijeron lo que estaba pasando y les dieron la misma respuesta. Dijeron, puede ser que se fue de fiesta, anda de party, no se preocupen, no tomaron mucho en cuenta. Nosotros por una preocupación enorme y esa fue la respuesta que dieron.
Well, my husband and Denny went to the police department, and again, they told them she was missing, and they got the same answer. Don't worry, she's probably partying. That's the answer they got.
How was that frustrating for you, knowing your daughter?
Sí, exacto, porque igual sus amigos me llamaban y me texteaban, es que no me contesta, a mí siempre me contestaba y pues sin poder hacer nada.
Yes, her friends would call me and tell me, I'm calling her, I'm texting her, and she's not answering. That never happens, and we couldn't do anything. Nothing.
And it wasn't just her phone contact, it was also her social media accounts just went completely silent.
Exactamente. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was as if she just was gone.
Exactamente.
Exactly.
Now, your husband came down with Danny down here to look for her, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
How long do you think they stayed?
Creo que vieron la denuncia y como no vieron que hicieran mucho caso, ellos se fueron con Raúl. Todo un miércoles anduvieron dando vueltas donde supuestamente anduvieron con Raúl, buscaron todo el día y pues no miraron nada, se regresaron ese día en la noche.
Well, as they reported it, but they didn't get a good answer from the authorities, then them and Raul went to the place where she had been, and they looked all day. It was a Wednesday, and they didn't find anything. They didn't get any results.
At some point, did your husband return?
Perdón. Para acá, no.
To
No.
here, no.
I'm sorry, did your husband return back to Seattle?
Oh, sí.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And he was able to meet up with the friend Raul Ortiz that she had been staying with, is that right?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
And she had left basically her suitcase, everything there, and he was able to get some of those things from Raúl.
Sí, el miércoles cuando estuvieron aquí, platicaron con Raúl y mi esposo vino a recoger su maleta.
Yes, that Wednesday, he talked with Raul and my husband went to get her suitcase.
Now, were you all able, well, before I ask you that, Your Honor, may I put Ms. Valdez, is this a picture of your daughter as you knew her when she was alive?
Esas fotos se las tomó 2 meses antes. Ella quería tomarse fotos de estudio y esas fotos se las tomó.
That picture was taken 2 months before. She wanted to have studio pictures and those photos.
So 2 months before she came to Dallas.
Sí.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to offer states 1 for all purposes.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit number 1 is admitted for all purposes.
Now, one of the other things that we talked about before, we had talked about
Jesus Christ, do you want to make her cry anymore? That's fucking sad as hell. Why are you putting that out there? Jesus.
that you just lost complete communication with her, which was incredibly unusual.
No. Como le digo, por alguna razón, ella no puede llegar. Ella me hablaba y me decía, madre, estoy bien.
No, as I said before, if for any reason she couldn't come back on time, she would call me and said, Mom, I'm fine.
We talked about before, you also kind of helped her open a bank account when she was younger, and you were still on that bank account. Is that correct?
Sí, la tuvimos desde que ella abrió su cuenta. Yo estuve siempre con ella en su cuenta.
Yes, we had it since we opened that account, and I was always on that account too.
And one of the things that you all did to kind of get a clue about what happened to her, where she was, is you got into her bank account, which you were a signer on. Is that correct?
Sí, yo me metí para ver si había tomado pues algún Uber para donde había pagado con su tarjeta y pues de esa manera yo envié algún recibo de la último Uber que tomó y pues sí, o sea, ya como le digo siempre, estuvimos juntos en la cuenta.
Yes, I looked at the account to see when was the last time that she had spent money, that she had used her card, when was the last time that she had taken an Uber and where. Yes, as I said, I was always part of that account too.
Your Honor, first, please.
You may.
Ms. Valdez, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Do these appear to be Marisela's Bank of America records?
Sí.
Yes.
And it looks like we have from September 5th, 2020 to October 6th, 2020. Is that correct?
Sí, sí.
Yes, yes.
And then after that, October 7th, 2020 to November 3rd, 2020,
Sí.
Yes.
November 4th, 2020 to December 7th, 2020,
Sí.
Yes.
and then December 8th, 2020 to January 5th, 2021.
Sí.
And I believe there's one more, and that is December 6th, 2021 to February 2nd, 2021.
Sí.
And all of these are States Exhibit 2. Your Honor, State offers States Exhibit 2 for all purposes.
You can tender to both accounts.
Yes.
Sí.
No, I haven't. No, I've not heard of that, Katie. Still? Well, Brazilians are beautiful anyway.
No objection. All right, State's Exhibit number 2, the Bank of America records are admitted for all purposes.
Now, Now, we talked about the bank records. Did it appear that she quit using her bank card on October, early morning hours of October 5th, 2020?
What day did you say?
October 5th, 2020.
Lo que yo miré fue el 4 en la noche, bueno, no sé si como a las 12, usó la tarjeta para un 7-Eleven, creo yo.
What I saw was that she used the card on October the 4th around midnight at a 7-Eleven, I think.
And you shared this information with your cousin, Nestle, and you all went through this information together, is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I kind of want to move on from that and talk about what communication did you have with the Dallas Police Department in the days and weeks after Marisela went missing?
Bueno, pues como nosotros seguíamos insistiendo en hablar para que pues hicieran una investigación, creo que a la semana o 2 semanas fue cuando tomaron en serio y empezaron a una investigación y me estaban llamando para hacerme preguntas y fue como a las 2 semanas creo yo que empezaron.
Well, as we insisted and insisted, about 1 or 2 weeks later, they began to take it seriously and they started to investigate and they began to call me and make questions. It was about 2 weeks later.
Okay. Initially, you were not, the detective assigned to the case was not Christina Ramirez, was it?
No.
No.
Okay, it was a different investigator.
Sí.
Yes.
And was it around December that you started getting communication from Detective Ramirez?
Sí, sí.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Did she explain to you why she was now handling the case versus the initial detective?
Ella no me llamó otra persona que estaba en el caso. Ellos me dijeron, nosotros es todo lo que podemos hacer, no podemos hacer nada, tenemos que pasar el caso a unos investigadores profesionales.
Well, she didn't call me. Actually, it was other people that called me and they said that that's all they could do. They couldn't do anything else, that they had to pass the case to some professional investigators.
Okay. And that's when Detective Ramirez
Sí, después fue cuando ella ya me llamó.
Yes, then she called me.
Okay. Was there a point that Detective Ramirez came to Seattle to speak with you and meet with your family?
Sí.
Okay, and she was joined by another detective?
Sí, con José
Ortiz?
José Ortiz.
Yes, with Jose Ortiz.
And you all were able to speak about Marisela, and they were able to speak to her friends and interview her friends and kind of get information about her.
Sí, para entonces, cuando ella fue, yo tenía todavía la esperanza de que mi hija estuviera con alguien. Y cuando llegó la prueba de ADN, fue cuando me di cuenta que mi hija ya no estaba.
Yes, by then I still thought that my daughter would be with someone, but then when we got the results of the DNA test, that's when I realized that my daughter was not there anymore.
Can you tell the jury how that felt to have that hope for those months? This was in about January, is that right?
Sí.
Yes.
Uno de madre nunca quiere perder a su hijo. Y menos de esta manera. Como mi hija terminó. Ella vino contenta. Y donde acabaron con su vida.
Yes, as a mother, you never want to lose your child, especially the way she did. And somebody just cut her life short.
Y no conforme con eso, la tiraron como si fuera una basura.
I'm not happy with that. They threw her away as if she were trash.
Y no la encontraron hasta meses después.
She's not found until months later.
Y me hablaban las personas, las que la estaban buscando, me dijeron, encontramos una parte de su hija, encontraron 2 partes de mi hija en una bolsa de basura. Eso es injusto.
And the people that were looking for her called me and said, we found one part of your daughter. Then they said, we found two parts of your daughter, and we found them in a trash bag. That's not fair.
Your Honor, I pass the witness. If I cross examination, you may. Thank you. Your Honor, if I get the Kleenex. Certainly, did you not have anything? It's right behind her, I just wanted to know. Oh, thank you, Madam Attorney.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
All good, Erin. I get it.
I'm gonna ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Did you know your daughter's friends, in particular, boyfriends or ex-boyfriends?
Sí,
Yes,
Did you know Raul Ortiz?
lo conocí poco.
I knew him a little.
And was he an ex-boyfriend of Marisela?
Yo sabía que eran amigos.
I knew that they were friends.
And how did you meet him?
Cuando era joven en la escuela, iba con mi hija.
When they were young at school, he was with my daughter.
So he lived in the Seattle area for a time.
Sí,
Yes,
Did you know that Marisela was going to see him in Dallas?
sí,
yes,
Did you know her current boyfriend at the time, a man by the name of Patrick Helm Breachet? I think I'm saying his name correctly.
era su amigo. O sea, ella no tenía relación formal, realmente su amigo.
it wasn't a formal relationship. They were friends. He was her friend.
So, ma'am, you reached out to Dallas Police Department, but they didn't really help you very much in trying to find your daughter.
De principio no.
In the beginning, they did.
And they kept telling you, oh, she's probably just partying. She's just
Welcome back, Mike. Nice to see you, sir.
partying.
Sí,
Yes,
Did you know that your daughter drank and used drugs?
no,
no,
But you knew that she liked to go out and party with her friends.
a veces.
sometimes.
Now, when you met with Detective Ramirez and Detective Ortiz Vivas, what month did you meet with them? Your initial meeting, your first meeting with them?
Exactamente, no recuerdo el mes. No, no recuerdo el mes.
I don't remember exactly the month. I don't remember the month.
But did they seem responsive to you and your concerns?
Sí,
Yes,
Now, you said your husband came to Dallas and met with Marisela's friend Raul Ortiz. Is that correct?
sí,
yes,
Did your husband bring back any of your daughter's belongings that were left with Raul?
las recogió. Sí, recogió. Ujú.
pick them up. Yes, he did.
Do you remember what Marcela's dad brought back with him from Dallas to Seattle?
Simplemente ropa.
Just clothes.
Clothes. Do you remember a suitcase or purses or any of her belongings, other belongings?
No,
No,
But you do remember her clothes coming back.
solo la ropa. Lo que nunca apareció fue su bolsa, su pertenencia privada, la bolsa, ID, tarjeta, su teléfono. Eso nunca lo encontramos.
just her clothes. We never found her purse or cards or private belongings. We never found any of those.
So you didn't get Marcela's purse that was found in Raul's car?
Bolsa personal, no, solamente la maleta con ropa.
Personal purse, no, just her suitcase with clothes.
Your Honor, may I approach? Ma'am, I know you took a look at this earlier. This is Maricela's bank statement that you shared with her.
Sí.
Okay. And do you see what the last two dates are?
Cinco.
Fifth,
Do you see two other entries in there where her bank card was used after the 5th?
Ah, ajá. Porque cuando me dijeron que cuando usó la tarjeta de mi hija el domingo en la noche, hasta otro día se cobró.
yes, because I was told that when they used
No.
my,
Without being told, do you see the last two entries and what dates are those, ma'am?
Ajá. Sí. Pero lo que tengo entendido es cuando usan la tarjeta, depende de lo que sea, no lo cobran exacto, sino hasta otro día. Es lo que tengo entendido.
but what I understand is that when the card is used, it's not reported on the same day, but the next day. That's what I understand.
But the dates on here are showing two purchases on October 6th, one at Select Start Arcade and one at Fedora, both places in Dallas. Yes or no?
¿Están ahí?
Are they there?
Right here.
Hmm.
So yes or no, ma'am?
No tengo idea por qué están ahí. Como le digo, a nosotros jamás nos entregaron su tarjeta, su bolsa, su teléfono, nada.
I have no idea why they're there. because we
Objection,
were-
Your Honor, non-responsive.
Sustained. And if you could listen to the specific question and answer that question if you can. If you can't, then please let us know.
So ma'am, yes or no, there were two uses of her card on October 6th, 2020.
Sí.
Yes,
And do you know if those two places were located in Deep Ellum, Fedora, and the arcade?
No tengo idea.
I have no idea.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Permission to publish states to, Your Honor. Ma'am, you were just asked about some records, some bank records and some charges from October 6th. Is that correct?
Sí.
Yes,
Now, you were discussing with the defense attorney that your understanding is that when a point of purchase or a card is used.
Objection, Your Honor, leading, and also it appears that Ms. Pittman is getting ready to ask a question that is hearsay.
Sustained at the leading nature of the question and possible hearsay answer.
Okay. Let me ask it this way. What is your understanding about the bank records and what they show?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Sustained, later predicated, she has personal knowledge about banking.
Ms. Valdez Frutos, have you ever used a bank card? A debit or a credit card?
Sí.
yes,
Okay. And you've reviewed your own bank records as well, is that correct?
Sí.
yes.
And when you use a bank card, when does it reflect on your bank statement?
Cuando la uso fin de semana, me aparece el lunes.
When I use it on a weekend, it turns up on Monday.
Okay, so if we're looking at State's Exhibit 2, and I believe the charges that defense counsel were talking about were these two down here, the 10/6/2020, 10/6/2020, and that's the date listed for all the, each charge right there. Do you see that?
Sí.
Yes,
Okay, and you see this date right there, 10/5.
Sí.
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness, but also that's not reflective of an actual date. 1005 select start, it's not showing an actual date, as in the bank statements, you do have 10/06/20, which would indicate a date.
Overruled as a leading, she was directing the witness to a particular line
whether or not that is a date or something else is simply for the jury to decide. Overruled. Ma'am, on, you see 10/5/2020, 7/11, and then you see a date right there, 10/5.
Yes.
Okay, and let's even look at the one above that. You see the date 10/5/2020, and then you see the numbers 1004.
Yes.
1004 above that.
Yes.
1004, that says Pecan Lodge Barbecue Dallas.
Yes.
Okay, right above that, you see a recurring charge of 10/5/20, on 10/5/20.
Yes.
Okay, and looking at each of these numbers, all these charges from Dallas, she's obviously located at Dallas at that time, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then this one right here, 10/6/2020, it says check card, and then what is that number right there?
1005.
1005.
Okay, and then this check card at Medora, Dallas, that's also a Dallas location, that says 1004, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In your experience in your own banking, is that reflective of when you make a purchase on the weekend, that it usually does not reflect on your statement on this date until days later?
Yes.
Another question, Jerome? All right. Thank you, ma'am. Please watch your step getting down from the witness stand, and you are free to sit in the courtroom. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have been hearing testimony for the last.
That was a defect.
For our morning break. I always say we'll break for 5 minutes, but it always ends up being 10, so. Don't sure. Much closer in age to her, is that correct?
Right.
And how old are you, Brittany?
I'm 32.
32, okay, and she would be 26?
I believe so.
Okay, she was 23 when she went missing, and we are about 3 years after that. Is that about right?
That's right.
Did you guys hang out socially and interact and things like that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and I mean, as far as her, what did she like to do when she went out?
So I would pick her up, and one of the things that we like to do a lot was to go frequent the beach. We would go to the beach and hang out with my daughters. That's usually what we usually did when it was nice in the summertime. I would go. She would live very close to me, so I would go pick her up, and we would drive around and go to the beach and hang out with my daughters at the park, or she would come over to my house.
Okay.
You know, just hang out there.
And me not personally being from Seattle, not spending a lot of time there, the beach is a little different than, maybe Texas beaches, right?
Mhm.
Cold water, but very pretty trees, things of that nature.
Yes.
What kinds of things would you do at the beach?
We like to get food and kind of do like a little picnic thing. Occasionally we'll have a drink or two on the beach while we're, in the sunset, whatnot. Catching the sunset.
Did you know her as far as kind of her work ethic and work habits?
Well, yeah, she was a manager, so I mean, at the department store, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, that definitely shows that she was a very hardworking girl. They don't just give a manager position to anyone.
Now, she was 23. Of course, she was legal age to drink. And as far as drug use, Seattle's a little different than Dallas. Marijuana is completely legal in Seattle, correct?
Mhm.
So if we're talking about illicit.
Whenever you answer a question, the court reporter has to take down your answer, so when you go, you have to answer yes or no.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when we're talking about marijuana and if Marisela used marijuana or not, that was legal in Seattle.
Right.
Did you know her to use marijuana frequently?
I don't know what the habits were. I do know that she was an occasional user.
Okay, but not all the time.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Did she drink some?
Yes.
And was she the type of person who would just get out of control drunk?
No, not anytime she was ever in my presence.
Now, did you all, I guess, just remain in contact pretty frequently?
Yes.
Did you follow her social media accounts?
Yes.
What social media accounts did she use primarily?
Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook.
Did she post frequently?
Yes, she did.
Okay, and what types of pictures would she post?
I mean, it would just because she liked to travel a lot. So anytime she traveled, she made it a point to show, the tourist locations that she was visiting. So those were mostly things that she posted, the sites or her boarding the airplane or at the airport, things of that nature.
Okay, and I guess what I'm getting at, it wouldn't be like her just to suddenly stop posting on social media.
It would not be like her, no.
Now, you were aware that she was traveling to Dallas.
Yes.
And were you aware of, I guess, the dates of travel?
I didn't know the specific dates. I do know that she was traveling out of town because we had been in contact to meet up when she returned to Seattle.
And she was to return to Seattle on October 5th of 2020. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, when do you recall being concerned about Marisela and whether she was going to return or not from Dallas?
So once she did not make her flight, that's when we were concerned. We were also able to see that she never made an attempt to get rebooked in another flight because it is not uncommon for people to miss the flight. But when there's no attempts ever to be made to get rebooked in the next available flight, that's when we knew something was off.
What did you do at that point?
So the first thing that we tried to do was access her email, because at that point I felt like we would have some sort of indication of maybe where she could have been. So we were able, with help with the family, to access the email, and that's how we were able to retrieve the receipts for her last lift that she took.
Okay, when was that last lift?
It was the Sunday night. It was, I can't recall the time, but it was late
Okay,
or early morning.
Late Sunday night?
Correct.
And that Sunday, if she's returning on Monday, October 5th, would be October 4th.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall, if you recall, was there any information about where that lift, pick her up and drop her off, or do you know?
There was I don't recall if there was a particular address, but once we seen kind of the location, we had an idea where she was at, and based on her debit card usage is where we were able to get a clear understanding of where she was dropped off that night.
Okay, and the debit card usage, we're talking about State's Exhibit 2. And if you can see on that screen, we talk about these places like the Con Lodge Barbecue, the Green Room Live, Select Star, Dora, things of that nature.
Yes,
Okay, and were you able to kind of determine that that was in a location called Deep Ellum?
that is correct.
We see the point of purchase 7-Eleven on 10-5. That doesn't have an address right there though, correct?
Right.
Now, if you're looking at the dates, is it pretty clear that these dates over here are when the actual charge is cleared, and these numbers here indicate the actual day that the card was used?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And so it appears that the 7-Eleven may be the last purchase that she made with her debit card.
Correct.
Now, we didn't flip through the other pages, but if we're looking at this combined statement from October 7th to November 3rd, 2020, she got a payroll deposit there on October 7th of 2020. And then it looks like this lift hit her account on the 7th. Oh, thank you. And it says 12 a.m. ride Monday, 12 a.m. lift. Is that the lift that you received that you saw in her email?
Yes.
And that indicated that if it was Monday, 12 a.m., that was super in the early morning hours of Monday, October 5th.
Correct.
This is a recurring charge of DoorDash, and that's in the recurring charge of LA Fitness. Are those the last charges that she had in her bank account?
Yes.
And reviewing those statements with your cousin, did it appear that she just quit using her bank account? I mean,
Yes.
I'm sorry, there wasn't any large withdrawal or anything like that?
No, not after the lift receipt.
Did you find that concerning?
Yes, especially if you're out of state, you would need your card.
What other things did you find concerning?
The main thing is that there's absolutely no communication. We would, like I said, if she had missed her flight, we should have gotten some sort of notification from her that she planned on traveling back. She still had to return to work, everything, all her belongings were still home. So just the fact that she completely fell off the face of the earth is very concerning.
Did you know who she was coming to visit here in Dallas?
Yes. I met him one time only in Washington.
Was that Raul Ortiz?
Correct.
Now, did you know if she had any other friends or acquaintances or associates here in Dallas?
Not as far as I know. He was the only person.
What steps did you all take as a family to try to locate Marisela?
So following the Monday, I believe it was Tuesday, that me and her father flew down to Dallas. And, obviously blind. We don't know anything. We are just kind of doing what we can or what we think is the best. So we rented a vehicle and we were kind of just driving around the Deep Ellum area. We went to the locations where the last time she used her debit card and tried to get a hold of the owner to see if we could pull up CCTV and see if it gave us an indication of who she was with or where she might have gone.
Was there anyone else in Seattle, friends, or anything else that came to Dallas as well?
Yes, Patrick came down as well, and he's the one that was also going around all of Deep Ellum and putting up posters.
Madam Clerk, witness, you may. Ms. Castillo, I'm going to show you what's been marked States Exhibit 3. You mentioned that Patrick was putting up flyers. Did you all use the last picture that she had posted on Snapchat as the picture that you used on the flyers?
Yes,
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate representation of that photograph?
yes.
Your Honor, move to admit States Exhibit 3 for all purposes.
No objection, Your Honor.
States Exhibit number 3 is admitted for all purposes. Permission to publish, Your Honor? Now, you all obtained this photograph, you said, from her Snapchat, is that correct?
Correct.
Did she post it in a story, or was it, I don't really know how Snap works, so if you can kind of explain to the jury, for those of us that don't know about Snapchat, how does Snapchat work?
You can post it to a story. It lasts about 24 hours. I think this particular picture, she had it saved to her camera roll. So the same way I was able to access her email is how I was able to access her Snapchat. I requested to reset her password and that be sent over to her email. Once I was able to reset her password, I was unable to access her Snapchat and retrieve the saved photo.
Okay. And so on Snapchat, you were talking about stories, and they're available for what,
Like 24 hours.
Did she regularly post stories?
Yes,
And if you were a follower, you could click on her story and it's available for 24 hours. And she may have several stories at one time.
correct.
Okay. And then the camera roll just saves to her particular Snapchat.
Correct.
It's not visible to everybody else necessarily.
It's not.
Okay. A little bit different from Instagram, where if you post an Instagram picture, it stays up there
Yes, no,
unless you
it's
personally delete it.
correct.
Okay. Now, this story that she posted, was this posted on the night that, or I guess the day of October 4th, the last day that she was going out in Dallas?
I don't recall if this was saved to her story, but I know once I was able to access the picture, I know it was taken that day.
Okay, so
It has a timestamp on it.
October 4th of 2020.
Correct.
Now, you said that, and that's the reason you guys used this particular photo, because that's the last thing that she would have been wearing in Deep Ellum.
Correct.
Patrick came down. What did Patrick do? Was he alone, or did he have some people with him?
When he came down, me and her dad had already flown back because he drove down. But we were in communication, and he went to all the bars and put up posters. And I believe he was able to obtain some of the security footage of her leaving one of the bars.
Were you and her dad able to obtain any of those videos?
No, I did talk to one of the owners. I think it was one of the bars that was shown in the statements, and he was able to retrieve the footage, but he couldn't send it to me. But he told me at that time she was still alone.
Okay, so she was alone in the footage that you saw.
Yes,
Do you recall what bar that was?
I think it was a Star,
Let's look at
something with stars in it, or arcade, the arcade.
The arcade. So in States Exhibit 2. One of the last locations or bars, there's Green Room, Select Start Arcade.
That one, Select Star Arcade.
Okay,
I believe that's when she had first arrived into Deep Ellum
after taking the lift.
after taking the lift.
So she's seen on camera at Select Start Arcade. Do you recall that footage?
No, it was very blurry. I think she was sitting at the bar just talking to the bartender
Okay.
on that one.
When she was sitting there, did she appear out of sorts, not knowing what she was doing,
No.
completely beside herself,
No.
anything like that?
She seemed fine.
Seemed fine. Now, you said Patrick came down. When you were down, did you contact Dallas Police Department?
Yes, I did.
And what kind of response did you get?
They told me that she was not a priority at the moment. She was only considered a missing person and not in danger. I can't believe the exact words that they used, but they said that she would need to be missing for I can't remember the time frame, for a while before they pushed it up to a more priority case.
And did they give you indication of why that was?
They just said that they get a lot of missing cases reports. So unless something indicates that she was in trouble, then they wouldn't pursue it.
Okay, so at that time, you didn't have any indication what happened.
I did not know anything.
But it was important enough, and not just important enough, but it was so out of character for her that you all left the day after she was supposed to return. Is that right?
Correct.
And you know Patrick, is it Humboldt? I'm trying to recall his last
I
name.
don't recall his last name. It's something long.
Okay, and you knew that they were friends.
Correct.
And, you know, younger people than me, I have to talk to my 17-year-old daughter to kind of figure out the language, but they were more or less talking. They weren't necessarily dating or in a committed relationship.
Correct.
Is that a fair representation?
Yes.
He knew that she was going to come see Raul. Or do you know that?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I know he knew that she was traveling. I don't know if he necessarily knew who she was going to come see.
Okay. But she knew that he was seeing other people, so it wasn't this committed relationship.
Correct.
It was important enough to him to drive from Seattle overnight.
He also spent a lot of time with her, so he knew that it was very out of character.
Do you recall seeing any, do you recall when kind of the media got involved in this case?
I want to say maybe after we started sharing it on social media is when we started getting a little bit more of attention from media. I want to say maybe a week after when they finally pushed it to, I think it was now missing and endangered.
And did you follow all those news articles? And
Yes.
Just try to get as much information?
I was very active, making sure that we could get her picture across as much platforms as possible, and the rare chance that someone had seen her.
Now, my first witness. Vanessa, I'm going to show you it's been marked State's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize that headline of the article, and one of the first articles that kind of hit the media?
Yes.
Okay. And we've cut off the bottom to redact any of the portions that have any media information in there. Your Honor, I move to admit State's 4 for all purposes.
No objection, Judge. It's the first attempt.
All right, State's Exhibit number 4 is admitted for all purposes.
Permission to publish, Your Honor. Now, at this time, it's a Seattle family friends desperate to find a woman missing in Dallas. States what we've already learned, that friends and family haven't heard from her since the early morning hours of Monday, October 5th. And it appears, if you look down there in the very bottom corner, that this article was published October 11th of 2020. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Is that when the media kind of started getting involved?
Yes. Once one picked it up, everyone else seemed to be interested, and we got a lot more attention media-wise.
Okay. And you did whatever you could to help the media, the police, anyone find any information about Marisela.
Correct.
Now, did you ever get any contact from anyone about her whereabouts?
No.
Is it fair to say you were frustrated in the beginning with the police department?
Yes.
What was it like to just be so concerned and so worrying about her and her whereabouts, and just to kind of get that response?
It was very frustrating because I was literally going back and forth with the person who told us that it was not an endangered, like she was not a person of priority at the time. You know, I recall I asked him if he has kids, and he stated he did. And I said, wouldn't you think, you know, if your child is missing, to look for them, or you have to wait until something happens for you to actually look for her? And at that point he said, I understand, but until we have any evidence that she may be in danger, there's nothing we can do at the time.
All right, at this time, I'd like to offer States 5. This is a calendar of October 2020 for demonstrative purposes only.
Yeah, I mean, Judge.
All right, State's Exhibit number 5, a 2020 calendar, is admitted for demonstrative purposes.
So we're going to start here with October 2nd. Your understanding is that is when Marisela left for Texas?
I believe so, yes.
And October 5th is when she was to return?
Correct.
You testified before that the Lyft receipt was in the early morning hours of the 5th or late hours of the 4th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm going to put it there at the bottom because that's leading up into the 5th. Her last point of purchase charge, based on those bank records was
Oh, would have been also the Sunday of the 4th.
Sunday the 4th at Deep Ellum bars.
Correct.
Now, it wasn't until October 11th that you saw the first article about Marisela going missing in a news source.
Correct.
You testified before that her father, Salvador Botello, and yourself flew down on the 6th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you know what date Patrick came down?
We left Wednesday, and I want to say he arrived Wednesday evening.
Okay. Did you all visit with Raul Ortiz when you all were here?
We did.
And what information did you learn from him?
We just went to collect her belongings that were left at his apartment. He's the one that I believe initially made the report that she never came back to his apartment.
Okay. And you primarily got her luggage and things that were in his apartment.
Yes.
When did you learn that Miss Marisela wasn't coming back?
I'm not like
I
Coming,
guess when
like-
did you learn that they found her remains?
okay. That's why I wanted clarification. It was 6 months later, I think, when they finally told us that they had found her remains.
And tell the jury what that was like.
Well, we had some hope when she hadn't been found that she could have still been alive. We were hanging on to that hope because it had been such a long time that there was no good outcome in the fact that she was missing, but we really thought that we would have her back with us. And when they told us that they found her remains, then at that point we absolutely knew that there was, nothing to make it any better at that point.
This last picture, you knew Marisela well, you knew her fashion choices and things like that. Do you remember this scrunchie? I know it's kind of blurry.
Yes, I do remember. She would wear it on her arm.
Is it almost like a cheetah print?
It is a cheetah print, correct?
All right, pass the witness. Cross-examination.
Yeah, it's Ms. Castillo.
Yes.
All right, I'm here to represent Ms. Dice. I just have a few questions for you. First and foremost, I think you indicated to the members of the jury that in Seattle it's legal to smoke weed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but as far as any other drugs, you didn't really know her or Marcella to use any other. Am I saying her name right?
Marisela.
Marcella.
She did not use any other drugs.
But while she was here in Dallas, whether or not someone else convinced her to use drugs, you have no idea, correct?
I wouldn't think she would.
That's not my question. Whether or not someone else influenced her to use drugs other than weed while she was here in Dallas, you have no idea. But you went with her.
I was not.
Madam Pro Judge. And so you've never seen her on drugs, right?
No.
So you don't know what effect drugs would have on her, like Percocet or ecstasy, what effect that those drugs would have on her, correct?
Correct.
Or how she would respond to that, do you?
I do not know.
Because you don't know her to use stuff like that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let me get this marked as defense one. Yeah. Let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 3 and Defense Exhibit number 1. I know you don't know the gentleman in the photo here with her, but does that appear to be Marcella in the same dress?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, which picture?
I'm referring to Defense Exhibit number 1.
Yes.
Okay. Judge Alford, it's marked as Defense Exhibit number 1.
No, Judge.
And again,
Exhibit
Mr. Public,
number 1 is submitted for offer.
thank you, Judge. Commissioner Public.
You may.
And again, it's a little grainy, but you can still tell that's her, isn't it?
Yes.
And you don't know who she's with there, but that's her in that same dress, isn't it?
Yes.
And you don't know if that was taken on a trip to Dallas or whatever, but again, it appears that that's her in the same dress that she took and put on Snapchat.
Yes.
All right. You indicated that while she was in Dallas, you didn't necessarily have communications with her, right? You were just following her on social media or whatever.
Correct.
All right. You said at some point you and the dad or the family became concerned to the extent that y'all called police.
Correct.
And the police basically told you that it wasn't a priority. She's just a missing person.
Correct.
There are a lot of missing people, right?
Correct.
And you guys wanted them to do more, but they said they got rules of procedure, right?
Right. Yes.
Unless they had evidence of some wrongdoing, there's nothing they can do, right?
Correct.
They needed evidence
Correct.
before they can move on with this case.
Yes.
Now, when you and the father came down, y'all visited with Raul, right?
Yes.
And y'all got a chance to talk to him
Yes.
about Marcella's coming to visit with him. And were y'all, did y'all have any concern about why he would allow Marcellus to go back to Deep Ellum by herself at that time of night?
Yes.
Y'all questioned him about that, right?
Correct.
And to be honest with this jury, everyone was really suspicious about Raul and what he had to do with Marcellus' disappearance, correct?
Yes.
And y'all let him know that, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Especially Patrick. Would you agree with that?
I don't know.
Okay. Because, I mean, did you know Raul?
I met him one time prior.
Okay. Did it make sense to you that he would allow her to go back to Deep Ellum by herself at that time of night?
No.
Did you know that they had been out drinking earlier?
No.
Okay. All right. As far as all these dates, let's subtract that. I did want to ask you real quickly about, you said that y'all were able to obtain some videos, or Patrick was able to get videos that at least showed her in that Deep Ellum area.
Yes.
I mean, assuming that the Star Arcade is in the Deep Ellum area, right?
Yes.
But on October the 11th, when this news story came out, I mean, this is a big story, right?
Right.
Her face is plastered all over Deep Ellum. Now she's on the news. All the news outlets are showing her face, right?
Right.
And that's October the 11th. And they're asking people, if you know anything, please let DPD know, correct?
Correct.
This may be a better question for one of the detectives or something. Did you know anything about tips that DPD may receive from Crime Stoppers talking about people seeing her? Just if you know.
No.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Cassie.
Any redirect? No, Your Honor. May this witness be silent?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection from the state. All right, thank you. Please watch your step getting down for the witness. Call your next witness. Your Honor.
You get settled, let me know. Okay, are you ready?
I am.
All right, sir, can you state your name and spell your name for the court, please?
Raul Ortiz, Raulortiz.
Okay. And Mr. Ortiz, I mean, you know why you're here. You knew Marisela Botello Valdez, is that correct?
Correct, we're friends.
Okay, where did you meet her?
I met her in Washington States back in my time in the service, maybe 2018, 2017 timeframe.
Okay, you said time in the service. What branch did you serve in?
I was in the Army,
In the Army. And how long were you in the Army?
4 years.
And when you met her, what kind of girl was she?
Outgoing, outspoken. There's more characteristics, but definitely outgoing, outspoken, kind, things of that nature.
Did you all kind of date for a short time?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. And I guess characterize that for the jury. What does somewhat mean?
More than anything, kind of not a serious relationship, but we were very good friends to a point where we had sexual encounters, but nothing to a point where we were dedicated to one another officially.
Okay. So you guys were friends, did go out on dates and things like that, but it never got anywhere serious. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
At what point did you move from Washington?
What time did I move out of Washington? I'd say January 2019 is when I got out of there.
Okay. And where did you relocate?
I relocated to Either Texas or New York. Texas or New York was one or the other.
Okay,
can't
and to
remember.
be fair, I mean, you've moved around from Washington to Texas and to New York several times over the last 2023, over the last 5 years or so.
I have.
Okay. In fact, you know, at the time of this offense in October 2020, you were in Dallas, is that right?
I was.
And during part of the investigation, when I believe Detective Christine Ramirez contacted you, you were down in Houston.
I believe so.
Okay. At some point, you may have returned to Washington.
Correct.
Okay. You were telling me yesterday one of the reasons is your family members, I believe it's your father, owns a business where you have a location in Dallas and one in Houston.
We did have a location in Dallas. We do have a location in Houston.
Okay, so the Dallas location shut down.
Correct.
Okay. During the time, or I guess after you left Washington, did you and Marisela stay in communication?
What was the question one more time?
Did you and Marisela stay in communication after you left Washington?
Yes.
Okay. Snapchat, things of that nature?
Yes.
And kind of what led to you inviting her to come down to see you?
Leisure. I know she was working up there, and I told her I'm here in Dallas. Hey, you want to come down? She was like, yeah. And she booked the trip to come out here kind of spontaneously.
Okay. And what kinds of things do you guys do in Dallas?
The typical things: sightseeing, eating, drinking. That's it, really.
Okay.
Sightseeing, eating, and drinking.
I mean, this was just about having fun.
Correct.
Now, she got here on October 2nd, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and I believe that is on we look at the calendar up there. October 2nd is on a Friday, and she was planning on returning on October 5th. She had a booked flight, is that right?
Sounds about right.
Okay. Did you pick her up from the airport, or did she Uber to your house?
I picked her up from the airport.
Okay, and was the plan for you to take her back to the airport?
Yes.
So let's go to what happened on October 4th, okay? What did you guys do kind of throughout the day?
We had a late morning, so maybe 11, 12 o'clock we woke up, had food somewhere. I can't remember specifically. We had food. And then we got, excuse me?
Pecan Lodge, maybe?
I'm not entirely sure what that reference means.
Okay. The Pecan Lodge barbecue place in Deep Ellum.
You know, again, I don't remember.
Okay.
I really don't remember.
So you guys have some food. What else?
Probably a few cocktails. The specifics of that day, I really don't remember. What I do know is that more than likely we had cocktails, ate some food, and then got the night started just like any other day. It's a time of leisure, time for us to kind of let loose a little bit, forget about work, and just, kind of live a little bit in the moment.
When you knew her in Seattle, did she drink and hang out and party?
Occasionally, yes.
Okay. Was she the type to get out of control?
No.
Did you know her to be a drug user?
No.
Now, this weekend that she stayed with you, did you all drink and party?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall if she ever used any other substances?
No.
And do you recall ever telling anyone, a detective or anyone else, that she may have used Percocet?
No.
You don't recall doing that?
No.
Okay. Based on your interaction with her October 4th, did she seem like she was in control of herself?
Yes.
So let's get to how you all got separated. So you all are out drinking, hanging out. What happened that led her to be separated from you?
Okay. I don't remember the specific timeline, but the reason we split up was because I had vomit on my shirt because I was drunk, and we went to my apartment, and I didn't have the keys to get in it, and my roommate was long gone. So I wasn't gonna go out. I told her, hey, if anything, if I get into my apartment, let's meet up at Deep Ellum. So she got an Uber, went to Deep Ellum, and I literally slept outside my apartment out in the balcony, like vomit on me. And that's when the next morning I woke up. I was messaging her all morning, and she just didn't respond.
That night, I mean, did you have any concerns, or was there any, reluctance to let her leave without you back down to Deep Ellum?
One more time?
Did you have any reluctance or concerns about letting this pretty young girl go back down to Deep Ellum on her own?
No.
What did you think when you woke up the next morning and she wasn't there?
Me being from Texas and me seeing what I've seen in my lifetime, I figured something bad had happened.
How did that make you feel?
Pretty bad to a point where I immediately called it in as a missing person because I could tell something was wrong.
So at that point, had you talked to anybody from her home in Seattle, any family members or friends?
Possibly, I don't remember. I think I did reach out to one of the family members, but I don't remember the specifics in this moment.
But you called in a 911 missing persons report. Did you get any response from the Dallas Police Department?
I spoke to them, reported them, and I think that's as far as it went, to my recollection right now.
Did you continue trying to get in touch with her?
Yes.
What different ways were you trying to get in touch with her?
iMessage, calling, and text message, Instagram, Snapchat.
Now, when she left that night, did she still leave her suitcase and some of her personal items with you?
Yes,
Okay, and she left some personal items in her purse as well.
correct.
I'm sorry, in your car. She left a kind of a backpack purse in your car. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. During that time, the coronavirus, the pandemic was still a pretty big concern in Texas. Do you recall at that time people were having to wear face masks in buildings and things like that?
Yes.
Do you recall her father coming down with her cousin Nestle and talking with you about Marisela and her whereabouts?
Yes.
What was that conversation like?
Very concerning. We went out and we went out looking for, asking questions. I believe we left some flyers, but that's the way that looked like. They came here concerned. They could tell something was wrong. I could tell something was wrong. We went out asking questions, investigating her whereabouts, leaving flyers, talking to people. But that's the way that looked.
And did they have some concerns about you letting her go down to Deep Ellum?
Yes.
Looking back on it now and knowing that, I mean, they found her remains 6 months later, how does that make you feel?
Shitty. That makes me feel pretty shitty. She was a very good friend of mine. I would even say like even one of my best friends, really.
Now, you talked about her leaving some of her belongings in your car. First, well, I'm going to show you the contents of this bag, marked States Exhibit 6. Trying not to rip the bag too much. Do you recall that backpack?
Looks familiar.
Okay. Is that the backpack that she left in the back of your car? Or I'm in your car? I'm not sure where she left it in your car.
I can say confidently, yes.
Okay. And looking would help to also to look at some of the contents in there.
Sure.
Okay. And a ticket, a book, Subtle Art of Not Giving a F Word. And specifically, do you remember this mask?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to offer States 6, the content, the backpack and contents for all purposes.
No, Judge.
All right, States Exhibit number 6, a brown old-fashioned shopping bag with a tan backpack, and the contents therein are admitted for all purposes.
Okay. And permission to publish, Your Honor? So some of the contents, we talked about she was planning on returning it's about a 4-hour flight from Seattle. Is that correct?
It sounds about right.
Okay. A box of the original feathered lash wispies. I don't know if you wear fake eyelashes, but that appeared to be a fake eyelash box.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Okay.
Something she'd have in her backpack.
Magnet from Seattle. And then this cheetah print face mask.
Definitely. Yeah. As I'm making memory now, I do remember that specific backpack on her body and her bringing it here.
And you recall her wearing a specific face mask during her time here in Dallas?
Yes.
Here's also, she had a, looks like a part of a boarding pass to Bangkok, from Bangkok to Seoul, Korea, with her name on it and date. You didn't accompany her on that trip, did you?
No.
Okay. Were you aware that she did enjoy travel?
Yes.
Also contained in that backpack, Cheez-Its, regular snack, Brooklyn, a Delta napkin. Do you recall what airline you picked her up from?
I don't recall.
Delta Wi-Fi information. And then also what appears to be snacks that they hand out on a plane, Delta biscuit. Is there any indication at all, Raul, that she had any intent to stay in Dallas?
No.
Would that be like her at all? And then knowing her for the years that you knew her, would that be something she would do?
Absolutely not.
Maxie, taxi. Hi, Maxie.
Your Honor, this time state passes the witness.
Right, this will be, our cross-examination, it is now 12:29, and we will go ahead and take our lunch break for 1 hour. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please remember your instructions. Mr. Ortiz, if you would stand down and wait for the attorneys.
Just if you remember, if you don't,
No, I really don't remember.
okay. But at some point, y'all go back to your apartment, right?
Sure.
And she wants to go back out.
Okay.
You're not upset about that, right?
I probably was a little upset, but what could I do? I have vomit all over me.
And there was no physical altercation between you and
Oh no. No.
And you're telling members of the jury you did everything you could to assist in this investigation,
Absolutely.
including tell Detective Ramirez exactly where she could find you in Houston.
Correct.
And did she come to Houston and talk to you?
I don't remember.
Okay, all right. As far as this Percocet, you're saying you don't remember whether y'all used Percocet. That's just what's on that tape, right?
Correct.
I'll pass it with you, sir.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be found excused.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Judge Ortiz, if you swear to testify, you are free to go back to the state.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Investigator Whaley.
Good afternoon. I see that your right hand is raised. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that in this case, you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Maybe you may proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you state, spell your name, for the record, sir?
Garrick Whaley, Garrick Whaley.
And how are you currently employed?
I work here at the Dallas County District Attorney's Office.
Okay, what's your role here?
I'm one of the criminal investigators
And how long you been with the DA's office?
for about 2 years.
what did you do prior to coming to the DA's office?
My previous 28 years was at the Dallas County Sheriff's Department.
And what was your experience, or what were your roles that you served in the DSO, Dallas County Sheriff's Office?
I started with the Sheriff's Department in 1994 as a detention officer. 1998, I became deputy. In 2002, I transferred to the physical evidence section, which is crime scene. I spent 17 years in the crime scene unit as a crime scene detective. I spent my last 2 years with the Sheriff's Department in the criminal investigations division.
Okay. So what's the difference between the crime scene investigation and the criminal investigation division?
So crime scene, for lack of a better example, CSI on TV, you go to the crime scene, you document, and you're not necessarily trying to solve the crime. You're just trying to figure out the crime scene.
Document and evidence collect, is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. And then that last role, the criminal investigation division, that's more detective, kind of the quarterback or the lead of the investigation.
That's correct.
Okay. And back in 2020 and 2021, is that where you would have been? Was in the Dallas Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir.
In fact, I want to draw your attention. The reason you're here, March 24th, 2021, were you at the Dallas Sheriff's Office then?
I was.
Okay. And did you receive a call out that day?
I did.
Okay. What was the nature of that call out?
It was found human remains at 3600 Post Oak.
Okay. And where is that in Dallas?
South Dallas County, Wilmer area.
Commissioner Bertrand?
You may.
I'm gonna mark these three. States 7, 8, and 9. Do you recognize these?
I do, sir.
And are these a fair and accurate depiction of the area you just started talking about?
They are.
And there's a dot on these maps as well. Is that indicating the area of Post Oak in which you're beginning to testify about?
That's correct.
This time I'll offer states 7 through 9 for all purposes and alternatives for objections.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, states exhibits 7, 8, and 9, which appear to be aerial photographs are admitted for all.
Commissioner Paulson?
Yeah.
So we start here, state 7. We see Post Oak Road and a red dot and a red in the middle, is that right?
That's correct.
And that's the actual call out location for this call of someone found human remains.
Correct.
And then just as we kind of bounce out, we get more perspective of the area where this is at, and this is out in Wilmer.
Yes, sir.
And then states 9, just to give us a little bit more context to kind of put it into relation with some of our major highways, 35 and 20, right there as well. Right?
Yes, sir. 45 and 20.
45 and 20, excuse me. What number is that? States 9. Thank you. So you get this call out. Who calls? You talk about the human remains?
There was a witness who was placing cat traps for feral cats in the area, who would who saw the remains and call 911. I received a call from our communications division about it.
And then you head out to the scene that day?
Correct.
And the scene was documented that day as well?
Yes, sir, it was.
Were there human remains out there?
Yes, sir.
How do you know?
There was a skull.
So pretty identifying piece of human remains.
Yes.
And was the area searched?
Yes.
Can you kind of, we've got it up on that map and we've got a few more pictures we're going to go through. How would you describe that area?
As I described in my report, it was mostly farmland and wooded area.
And a video was taken out there at the time when you all are out there for the search. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I guess before we jump into that, there are March 24th, your dispatch out there.
Correct.
2021.
Yes, sir.
Was that the only time that you're out there?
In that area, no.
Okay. Did y'all go back for a subsequent search?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
That was the 26th, 2 days later.
And what was the reason for that?
We did further canvass the area to get a deeper search. We had it was getting dark and we had some severe weather coming in that night. And so there was a determination to collect what we could see and clear the area and then come back at a later time.
Commissioner Bertrand?
You may.
Commissioner Bertrand, this witness.
I'm sure you have marked here states 10. Do you recognize this disc?
I do.
Okay. Is that your signature there on it?
It is.
Had you had a chance to review this before today?
I have.
Okay. And What's on this disc on States 10?
This is the crime scene video that was taken at the scene.
Okay. Is it a fair and accurate depiction of the scene as it was when you all were out there back in 2021?
Yes, sir.
This time I'll offer States 10 for all purposes, alternative defense for any objections.
No objection, Your Honor. Spend pictures of 10.
All right, State's Exhibit 10 is admitted for all purposes.
Commissioner Beltran?
Would you like a laptop?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a video without sound, just to give the kind of visualization of the area, is that right?
That is correct.
Hey, Kimmy. Welcome, Kim. Maxi Taxi. We all love Maxi Taxi. Imagine many ladies are drooling over his bald head. You love a bald head, you know?
Additionally, photographs were taken of that area as well.
That is correct.
And what was, so whenever there was in between the first time you're out there and the second time, you said that there was rainfall that came as well?
Correct. The first initial day that we were out there that evening, there was quite a significant thunderstorm that came through the area.
And that area we can see in there, kind of corner right there on that plot of land, kind of collects a good bit of rain whenever it comes.
Yes, sir.
In fact, in preparation for trial, you went back out there to scene with Miss Pittman, is that right?
That is correct.
Had a significant bit of water just recently when we were out.
Yes.
And then the first trip that you're out there on the 24th, you're collecting just kind of stuff that you can easily see that we kind of see on the top of the ground there. Is that fair?
Well, yes, sir. What I mean, the sheriff's department didn't actually collect any of that stuff. The medical examiner's office came out and did the collection. We were just documenting.
The joint collective, a joint effort, I guess. You've got Dallas Sheriff's Office out there, so the medical examiner's out there. Do you recall what other agencies were out there?
That first initial day, just the sheriff's department and the medical examiner's office.
Follow-up day, who all's out there?
It was the sheriff's department, medical examiner's office, and Dallas Police Department.
The FBI out there as well?
I don't recall them being there.
And so you got a lot of agencies. Were there a lot of people there?
15 to 20.
And then can you describe kind of the efforts of kind of surveilling the area to look for evidence out there?
Well, you have the field. That's I mean, it's pretty open right there. The wooded area was a little bit more difficult to get through. It was thick with brush, and it was quite muddy that day, so it was kind of made it very difficult to run through that area.
How much are you able to have marked here? States 11
through 38. You flip through those, keep them back towards you. Just look all through 38. So you've looked through all through 38?
Yes.
So 11 through 38. Are these all fair and accurate depiction of the site out there, either on that first day or on the subsequent day in the search of the area?
Yes, sir.
This time, I'll offer states 11 through 38 for all purposes. And I'll put it in the question.
No, just purchase it.
All right, states exhibits 11 through 38, photographs are admitted for all purposes.
Mr. Closer?
You may.
So I'll move through these. When we've seen the video, we have the context of it, just in case the jury needs them. This is the area we're talking about. It's kind of right there off the road in states 11. Is that fair?
That is correct.
And then the way these are kind of shot is they then start to turn and show different angles and different parts of the area, and then we'll be focusing on individual evidence.
Correct.
We see here states 13. We saw in the video you document, the Dallas Sheriff's Department documents the pole there. What's the purpose of that?
So the numbers on the pole can be fed to the telephone company, and they can give an exact location of where that pole is. So just to define the location.
Because the area we're talking about, right, state 7, there's no actual addresses out there.
Correct.
States 14, just kind of showing Post Oak headed back towards, I think, Pleasant Run. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Pleasant Run this way, Beltline this way.
Correct.
States 15. Now we're looking towards Beltline.
Yes, sir.
State 16, showing that pole across the street at Post Oak.
Yes, sir.
17, again, just documenting the name or number that's associated with that telephone pole.
Correct.
So then we come back to states 18, and now we're starting to look at the area that you were all about to begin your search.
That's correct.
States 19. This is that field that you're going to begin the search, where we can see it's pretty muddy, some small pooling of water and some holes, I guess, in the ground, for lack of a better word.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And we can even see here in states 19, we saw in the video where we're starting to see that some of those remains are sitting right there on top of the soil.
Yes, sir.
States 20. That's the human skull that you talked about seeing.
Yes, sir.
We see States 21, that skull portions up here. We see some more human remains several feet away.
Correct.
States 22.
Those the remains that were several feet away from the skull. You see a close up of those.
And then 23, we see it again a little bit closer shot.
Yes, sir. Same remains, just a different angle.
States 24, we now have a ruler next to it to give us some size context.
Correct.
States 25.
It's a picture of the skull.
We just continue to document various angles and degrees of close to whatever it is you're photographing. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
States 27. Again, now we have it with the ruler there to give some context about size.
Correct.
And then States 28, separate from the skull, is the lower half of the jaw.
Yes, sir.
States 29.
It's close up of the lower jawbone.
States 30, we now have the rulers in place to give us some size context.
That's correct, sir.
States 31. Kind of hard to see on the screen here. So we see that we have some kind of dead brush. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And then, but there are some bones if you look there in the middle of the screen.
Yes, sir. Right.
We'll then zoom down to States 32.
Yes, sir. Close up of those human bones,
States 33.
and then a human bones with a scale in it.
States 34.
Once the skull was removed from the where it was found, just to set it up on a spot to get a straight shot at it, get a better look at it.
See, half of the skull is obviously exposed away from the soil, and the rest of it's covered in dirt.
Correct.
And then States 35. I have here. This is from that second follow-up investigation where we have more of the agencies out there.
I do not recall anything like that on that second day. No, sir. I know they talked about subsequent searches.
And then States 38. There was a documented trash bag out there.
Correct.
And again, your job with Dallas Sheriff's Office was just to assist and document its having out. This is a scene right outside of the Dallas city limits. Is that right?
It is.
Okay. And Dallas was already lead agency on this. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, like you said earlier, your job wasn't the collection for you or any of the DSO personnel out there. Your job wasn't to collect the evidence or anything like that.
Correct.
You were just assisting in this.
Well, the day we didn't know the identity of the victim until the next day.
Okay.
On the 25th. So that day, initial day, we were thinking this was our investigation.
So initially, not sure whose investigation, think it's yours. The identification comes back. You're told the identification. Are you told who it is?
Yes.
And who are you told the identification was made?
Marisela Botello.
Okay. And then Dallas already had an open case involving her.
Correct.
And then so that's why they're out there for the subsequent search.
Yes, sir.
And then when we spoke in preparation for trial, we went back out to the scene. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then
You took some photos while you're out there.
I did.
States 39 through .48. Are those all photographs that you took when we went and revisited the scene?
They are.
Okay. And then we had you drive to another location, 274 Turning Tree Road. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. You have no idea its relevance in this case, though.
I do not.
Okay. That wasn't part of your initial investigation or anything like that. It was just something we asked you to go over there and we documented that as well.
Correct.
Okay. This States 49, is this a Google Street printout showing kind of that street that we went over to?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And then States 50 is a photograph you took while we were over there at the end of that street. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. States 51. This, what are we looking at here in States 51?
Appears to be a Google Map printout of a mapping of just the point between the scene where the bones were found and the turning tree address.
This time I'll offer States 39 through 51. Center Defense 30 sections.
Erin, Hack, get back on that bus, Erin. You're confusing everyone.
All right, state visits 39 through 51 are admitted for all purposes.
Commissioner Peltrin?
You may.
We've essentially seen these, but States 39 is us looking out from Post Oak, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And we're looking mostly north towards Pleasant Run that way.
Correct.
And then States 40 shows us looking back towards Butler.
That is correct.
Fairly remote area, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you, this area of town where these bones were here called out, is that in the state of Texas?
It is.
Is it in the Dallas County?
It is.
These were some reshots to kind of show the area again, kind of the trees, that brush. Obviously, it looks a little different. This is from the revisit, but you can see that there is additional trash that's back out there now.
Yes, sir.
States 42. Again, just some additional shots that maybe weren't taken whenever you're first out there. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And then States 43. We can't really see it here, but there's a fence right in this area, right? Looks like there's one fence post.
Yes, sir. There is a fence.
Now, that fence just cuts kind of long ways with the property. It doesn't stop you from exiting a car or vehicle and walking onto the property from the road.
Correct.
On either side of that fence, that field where the remains are found, or this other more wooded, brushy side.
Correct, sir.
You could enter both.
Correct.
States 44, we're just kind of moving down and showing some of that brush and tree area over there. Correct?
Yes, sir.
States 45, again, just kind of moving that direction.
Yes, sir.
46, just a tight close up there.
Yes, sir.
And 47, again, a good bit of trash when we're back out there 2 years later, right?
Yes, sir.
And States 48, just kind of continuing that angle on towards the line.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then now, States 49, we're looking at 274 Turning Tree Road, correct?
Yes, sir.
States 50 is a photograph you took. That's right there at the end of that street. And if I were to look kind of this way, we say that's kind of, if we could walk straight through all the trees and the watered areas over there, we would get right over here to this.
That's correct, sir.
And States 51, just kind of illustrating that 274 Turning Tree, the body recovery area, and we say it's about approximate, less than a 5-minute or 5-minute drive between those two locations.
Yes, sir.
That's what it's from.
In fact, it's about 3 miles, isn't it? A little over 3 miles according to Google. Do you know?
I do not know the exact measurement, sir.
Okay. Who's that now? Your state's now? Okay, just so the members of the jury are clear what we're talking about, this is like right off of, so this is 45 here, right?
Yes,
45?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's like going toward Houston, right?
Correct.
And then you got your speed trap for those of you who go to Houston a lot. And well, this is what we're talking about in this area, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, and then that post oak is this road right here?
Post Oak would be the road where the,
Where the little red dot is?
yes, sir.
All right, but that's right there by Wilmer, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, in fact, there's like a little Love's over here somewhere down 45, right?
Yes,
Are
sir.
you familiar with that area?
Somewhat, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Regardless, and let me be specific. I'm sitting on this side, I can see. No, we good. You said you work crime scene, right?
For 17 years, yes, sir.
All right, so as far as, in that area out there, that open range out there, I think y'all even indicated that the person who called y'all was setting cat traps, right?
That's correct.
A lot of animals out there, right?
Yes, sir.
Hogs, wild hogs,
Yes, sir.
possibly even bobcats, correct?
Possibly, yes, sir.
All right, so as far as these bones that y'all found, the skull y'all found, how long was it in that location? Do you know?
Do not know.
As far as the location that this skull was found, you can't say whether or not an animal found it in the wooded area and transported it to that area, can you?
I can't say for certain one way or the other, but I'd be really surprised if there hadn't been any animal activity.
Okay, but you can't say that, can you?
Correct.
You don't know, again, well, as far as evidence of the body obviously had decomposed, right?
Completely.
Okay. Were there any clothing found near the skull?
No.
That would indicate someone had dumped the body there?
No, sir.
Other than I think you had the head, or you had the skull, looked like you had a jawbone, you had some other, looked like some fractures of a bone, or you had a femur or something like that?
I believe so. You had some rib bones.
But it wasn't a complete skeleton, was it?
No, sir, it was not.
So the possibility that those bones had been moved from another location is possible, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And again, we're talking about an area that's not secure, right?
Correct.
And in reference to, I think you said that y'all even had to come back because you were worried about severe weather or something like that, what did you say?
It was turning dark, and we had some severe weather coming in, so the decision was made to come back at it on those days.
And just so members of the jury are clear, again, these remains, any evidence out there is out there open to the elements.
Absolutely.
And as a crime scene, I guess, expert, 17 years, I think, makes you an expert. The elements in the area in which an object is left could potentially affect, I guess, what evidence you collect.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's it. And Terrell, do you recall storms in February 2021? Just a few.
I mean, nothing specific.
Okay. Okay, so just so we're clear, you go out there, and when you're out there, the ME's out there too?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. The medical examiner's field agent.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let me just get right to the point. As far as the remains that y'all found out there, can you tell members of the jury whether that person was poisoned?
I have no idea.
Can you tell members of the jury whether that person suffered an overdose?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you tell the members of the jury whether that person suffered an overdose?
I cannot.
Other than clearly not being shot in the head, can you tell the members of the jury whether that person suffered a gunshot wound?
I cannot.
Can you tell whether the members of the jury whether that person had been stabbed?
I cannot.
And that's because of how badly the body was decomposed.
Correct.
And in regards to whether or not those remains or that skull was at that location on October the 5th of 2020, you can't tell the members of the jury that, can you?
No, I cannot.
I'll pass it to the judge.
All right, make this witness be finally excused.
No objection to the state, Your Honor.
All right, sir, thank you for being here today. You're free to go back to this.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time the state would call Dr. Christian Crowder.
I think we're all a little bit confused. We're gonna have to look at it all.
Yes, if you would please stop and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're
Yes.
about to give will be the truth, the whole truth,
3 trials. 3 trials.
Yes.
3 defendants. This is the first one. Dirkstein, what's Aaron done?
Can you spell your last name for record?
Dr. Christian Crowder, last name Crowder.
Sir, how are you currently employed?
Currently, I'm the Chief of Human Identification and Anthropology at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office.
How long have you been there?
I've been there since 2021.
And prior to that, where were you?
Prior to that, I was the anthropologist for the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office.
How long were you an anthropologist there?
I started there in 2018.
So 3 years.
Correct.
And what are your, I guess what kind of training, experience, school does it take to become an anthropologist in a medical examiner's office?
I have a bachelor's in biological anthropology from Texas A&M, a master's in biological anthropology from University of Texas Arlington, and then a PhD in biological anthropology from University of Toronto, Ontario. And I'm board certified with the American Board of Forensic Anthropology.
What's the board certified?
To be board certified, you have to meet all of the educational requirements to PhD. You have to submit recommendation letters from other boarded individuals, and you have to provide 3 case studies that either you performed or worked with for evaluation to sit for the board exam. And then there's a 2-part exam with questioning and then a practicum where you have to review skeletal remains and other things that is used for our types of analyses.
And so let's get into that. What is your type of analysis? What is the function of the anthropologist?
So a forensic anthropologist is a biological anthropologist who has a specialty in human osteology or the human skeleton, as well as any cartilaginous structures. These are structures that attach to the skeleton, like your rib cage, neck structures. This also includes any other hard tissue like dentition. We also are trained in archaeological recovery methods because we assist with outdoor scene recoveries for decomposed, burned, or skeletonized human remains.
In this case, were you assigned to do some of those things?
Yes,
As part of that work, do you also prepare a report?
I do.
Okay. And are photographs taken as well to kind of document the remains and scene?
They are.
So have you have marked here states 52. Is that a copy of your report and the diagram and attached diagrams for your report?
Yes, yes it is.
And states 53 through 69, if you look through those. And are those remains that are associated with this case that you would have been reviewing?
Yes, this is a combination of photos taken at autopsy and taken during my exam.
They all come back to the remains that you would have been reviewing. Is that correct?
Correct, and they also, each one has a case identifier associated with it, either on a scale or on a identifier placard.
Okay, and what is that identification number that the Dallas Medical Examiner's Office uses? What's it called?
It's the case number for the case, which is associated with the decedent.
Okay, and that's what we see here, IFS with these series numbers 2106459.
Correct.
Okay, and those numbers then match up with how you would document your report as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that follows everything that kind of happens with that case within the medical examiner's office.
Correct.
And these are all fair and accurate depictions of the remains?
They are.
And you said 652 was a fair and accurate copy of your report and a couple of diagrams along with it.
Correct.
This time I'll offer states 52 through 69. I'll finish the three injections.
No objection at all.
All right, exhibits 52 through 69 are admitted for all purposes.
And we'll start with states 52. We see here at the top the case number and the name. And the pathologist all listed on the report, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Walk us through kind of what we're looking at whenever we talk about, when we have kind of just the description up there at the top is giving you the background about either your investigation out the field, right? Is that right?
Correct.
And just kind of what you did there and after.
Okay.
Yeah, walk us through that.
Would it be helpful to explain how an anthropologist is initiated in these cases?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's 2 ways that we can be brought into a case. One of those is every morning when the pathologists go through the case list of all the decedents scheduled for autopsy, they may designate certain cases that would benefit from anthropological analysis, meaning that there's some question that needs to be answered by looking at the skeletal remains. In the event where we have a case that is mostly skeletonized, then that would definitely involve a forensic anthropologist to assist the pathologist with their determination of cause and manner. The other way that we're involved in cases is if there is a field discovery and by law enforcement, and they call our office to report that potential human remains have been found. In that case, if the remains are skeletonized, then the death investigator, who is the first at the scene, will then contact the forensic anthropologist to assist with the recovery.
And so walk us through your involvement and how you get assigned here and what you do.
Okay. So with this case, I was notified that there were remains that were found that were believed to be human remains. I did not go to the scene. It was late in the evening, and I believe there was a storm rolling in. And so the investigator on scene decided that they would go ahead and initiate the recovery for the storm hit. The storm hit that evening, and so the day that we went back to the scene the next day, the area was flooded, and so we couldn't do additional recoveries. And so I actually didn't go to the scene until April 12th. And so on March 25th, that is when the pathologist was assigned the case from the previous evening's recovery. And so she is the one who asked me to be involved with the analysis at autopsy, where the case was turned over to her, and she began her analysis and then asked for my assistance with performing the different things that are listed on this report.
And then you do the analysis here in this report, right? So you then, like you said here, you go out, there's another time for another recovery event out there at the Post Oak address in Wilmer, where you guys do subsequent searching. And there's more things that are collected, more remains are collected. Let's talk then about actual process then. What do you do once you get those remains and you come back into the lab or the office?
So once the pathologist does their initial characterization of the decedent's remains, they're then turned over to anthropology. What I do at that point is I perform an inventory, so I can tell what skeletal elements we have and what we're missing. And then in this case, we did have some adhering soft tissue. The remains weren't fully skeletonized. And so what I do is I process that tissue off the remains so I can make sure I can observe all of the bony features without any tissue adhering. That process involves taking the remains, putting them into a water and degreaser bath, and then putting them into an incubator, which is basically like a convection oven. And so it slow heats and dissolves the tissue, leaving only the hard tissue. And so once that is done, the remains are taken out, allowed to dry, and then I'll begin my analysis. In this case, when we are dealing with skeletal remains with no other indications of their biological profile, their age, sex, ancestry, stature, the pathologist will ask me to attempt to build that profile. So in this case, I actually started to build that profile, but before I could complete the analysis, the remains were identified via odontological evaluation through dental identification by a forensic dentist. And so when that occurred, my analysis changed, and it turned into only providing inventory, minimum number of individuals. That means an assessment based on the skeletal remains to determine, do we have multiple individuals in the skeletal assemblage, or is all this likely from one individual? I also was asked to look for any evidence of trauma on the remains, any evidence of skeletal trauma, and then also asked to look at what we call taphonomy. Taphonomy are all the changes that can occur during the depositional environment. So during the environment after death. These changes can be due to anything like weathering, animal activity, human activity. So these were the items that the pathologist asked me to assess.
So here we're talking about the inventory. You have that written down in the report, but then also I have it here attached to the report as well. We can see that everything that's shaded means it was not recovered. Is that correct? Or it was.
Right. So if it's shaded, it says not present or highly fragmented. And then white is present, and then the other box with the dots is staining. So there was just staining on the remains. So this is not only an inventory, but it's also a diagram where I can make additional notes about the condition of the remains.
And here you have the dates listed 3/25 to 4/1/21. Is that correct?
Correct.
Like you said, they're going out and recovering. You're going back out to that site again, and your final conclusion looks like it comes from April 13th, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
One thing I heard you talk about the inventory process is determining we got multiple people out here, remains, or is it just one? Did you make a finding on that?
I did. My determination that we had a minimum of one individual, meaning that the remains were all congruent with coming from the same individual. There were no repeat elements, which is one of the things that we look for. If there's two left arm bones, two skull fragments from the same area of the skull, anything that could give us an idea that we actually have two individuals, not one. And in this case, there was no indication that we had multiple individuals.
And then you said you're also looking at evidence of trauma, and a word that I'm not even going to try and say, I'm going to let you say again.
The taphonomic conditions? Okay. Right, so I was asked to do trauma analysis. What this involves is looking at the remains radiographically through x-rays, looking for antemortem or before death trauma. That's usually when you're looking for any type of healing. So this would be an older injury that is likely not associated with the death event, but just an earlier injury. It involves looking for perimortem trauma. Perimortem means around the time of death. Now, for an anthropologist, the definition of perimortem is a bit different from a pathologist. A pathologist looks at soft tissue, so they can have a very tight window for something that is an acute injury or something that probably happened during the death event. For an anthropologist, perimortem is much broader because we're looking at how the skeleton reacts. And the skeleton can take much longer to lose that ability to cause a breakage that looks like it's a recent fracture. And then we look for post-mortem events, and that falls under taphonomy. So in this case, I didn't find any evidence of trauma on the skeleton, on the skeletal elements that I was able to review.
Is, in your experience, is it possible to receive life-sustaining injuries that don't cause any trauma to the bones?
Yes.
So, I mean, the point here is that you find there's no evidence of trauma on these bones in your reports, but you're saying it could be possible to receive life-threatening injuries that would never actually cause anything for you to be able to see in the body like this.
All I can report to the pathologist is there's no inflicted trauma to the skeleton.
Because obviously there's not enough soft tissue to determine. I mean, we're talking about very little soft tissue, I guess, that was on this.
Correct.
And then same here down it's taphonomic.
Taphonomic.
Okay. That's kind of just a post-mortem trauma.
It's the post-mortem changes to the remains.
Okay. And there was some evidence of that.
Right. So there are various changes that were associated with the body being in the post-mortem environment. One of those is what we call sun bleaching. Some of the skeletal elements showed areas of bleaching from the sun having interaction with it. There's also elements that had soil staining, and that tells us that they were in contact with soil and they were taking up that coloration from the soil and the botanic evidence or botanic vegetation around the remains. There's also a lot of breakage that wasn't associated with trauma. It had characteristics of breakage that we see with animal scavenging.
So the evidence that you're able to see from changes to the skeletal remains are weather, ground, and animals.
Correct.
And do you have any way of knowing how long those remains will sit out there? Seeing some of those kinds of changes?
I don't. When the remains are in that sort of condition and they've been impacted by scavengers, there's really not a reliable way to make a time since death estimate.
And then the last thing was here, just kind of a summary of all those things we just talked about. One person, skeletonized individual, and that there's no, that there was the post-mortem breakage and damage, but then there's obviously no evidence of any trauma, perimortem or antemortem.
Correct.
But if we start looking here, it's 53. These are kind of a photo of the remains. One of the first few times they would have been gathered, that first little series of remains.
Correct.
Okay. And we see here, this is where they come in, kind of an as-is photo with all the dirt and everything kind of associated with it.
Correct.
And then you eventually essentially remove the dirt, debris, and things like that from the remains and document those as well, kind of clean, if you will.
Correct.
It's 56. 10, Cassian 59, the beginnings of the body being, or the remains being cleaned up and kind of placed where we would think to look at them.
Right, they're placed into a more anatomical position.
Stage 60, again, just show kind of the upper half of the remains. Stage 61, the lower half of the remains, kind of on that blue Swiss bag, and then we move into stage 62. These are where we start to get into some of the work you've been into. Is that correct?
Correct. These would be my images.
Stage 63, the upper half on that black background and laid in anatomical order. 64. Then we have just documenting the skull and jaw together. And so 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I want to jump back briefly here to state 62. Tight up view there of the top portion of the remains. Talking about looking for evidence of trauma, and if the allegations were anything of trauma to the neck and chest region, upper chest region, we are missing some crucial bones in that area. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. What are we missing there in that area?
We're missing several ribs. You have 12 paired ribs on each side. You're missing the sternum or the breastbone, the manubrium, which is the top of the sternum. We're missing the upper spinal column, so the thoracic and the majority of the cervical vertebrae. One of the cervical vertebrae is shown in this image. And then you're missing the shoulder complexes, so the scapula, the arm bones.
And so, in a hypothetical of stab wounds, somewhere in the chest and neck region, it's possible, in your opinion, then that there could be life-threatening injuries that happen that just don't show up on these bones.
It's possible to have injuries that don't show up on bones.
But to be totally clear, there's no evidence of trauma whatsoever on these bones.
Correct.
That's what Sean.
If I may.
Well, we've been at it for about an hour and a half, so we're gonna go ahead and take our afternoon break. Sorry, Dr. Crowder, you're just gonna have to take a break with us. We'll be at recess for the next 10 minutes.
All rise.
Okay, so cool, there we are. So that means we will come back to that trial in a bit. So I'll close this trial down and then pop over, see you on the other side in about 5 seconds. So with that, freeze our grandson. See you in a bit.